Welcome to part 10 of What If Kami Sends Naruto Back in Time to Fix His Mistakes. Please remember to like and subscribe as it motivates me to upload more in the future, and as always link to the fanfiction is in the description. Prelude to Kiri. 11.5 months into training trip. Leaving the comfort of Wave Country was the most difficult part of the trip for the Senju family, and they didn't leave whole. Shizune stayed with York so that she could look after the newborns and the pregnant Yamanaka. Yup. Enko's bun popped out of the oven over a month before the group was ready to leave, and it made it that much harder to leave. Rias was broken up about it, and Naruto didn't really want to leave Ino, but they needed to make their rounds during the training trip, and the plan was for Naruto to Horaishin the whole group back to Wave after their time in Kiri. He had set up the beacon seal in the Senju villa, and he could constantly feel it like a beacon in the night sky. He would need to get the beacon seals set up in each city to make travel easier. Enko and Rias had a beautiful red-headed baby girl that looked like a true Uzumaki. Rias was always partial to her Uzumaki heritage and wanted to honor the last full-blooded Uzumaki and Heavenly Mother. Thus, Enko gave birth to baby Kushina and blessed the Senju family with the first red-headed baby. If Himawari's birth at the hospital was chaotic, then Enko's labor was hilarious. The Senju family in the waiting room played hot potato while juggling a stressed Tsunade. Luckily, Enko decided to spike some of Tsunade's sake, so she was slightly more manageable than normal. Only Naruto and Kurama were put through the hospital walls this time around. The decision to split the training group was the only natural choice to be made, with Enko and Himawari being newborn mothers. The hardest part was that both significant others were Naruto's alters, and Naruto needed to be present as they made the rounds for the training trip. Naruto had still not found a realistic way for the alters to be separated for extended periods of time. He tried making blood clones, but neither the Biju nor the alters were able to use the blood clones. Not to mention the blood clones cost a couple liters of blood apiece and over half of Naruto's chakra to make. In addition to not having a proper clone for extended stays outside of the seal, it was clear to everyone that prolonged absence from the original was bad for both the original and the alter ego. Under strict supervision of Tsunade during their time in Wave, they pushed this experiment to the max. Rias was the most stable and independent of Naruto's alters, and she stayed outside of the seal for 1 month and 3 days. The last week of that experiment was sheer torture, as Naruto started to become manically depressive and Rias' personality started fragmenting. Needless to say, the conclusion of the group was to continue following the current status quo of 1 night and day per week within the seal. Despite all of the distractions, the group made the most of their time in Wave. Tamari chose water as her secondary element and was able to start her level 3 control exercise before she left Wave. She was still far from incorporating it into her battle style, but she was already demonstrating proficiency in the element. She enjoyed the training because it meant more hands-on practice with Naruto and more time spent with him. She was hovering just below S rank overall, and she was very happy with her results. Gaara decided to try the water element as well, but it was exceedingly difficult for him. Evidently, Shikaku really despises water and fought against making it one of Gaara's affinities. Thus, the Suna redhead focused on his wind and earth jutsu. Naruto was his training partner for both affinities, and the two Jinchuuriki were true brothers in all but name. In Tsunade and Kurama's opinion, Gaara was firmly within the S ranks now. After nearly a year of griping from Shukaku, Naruto finally found a way to alter Gaara's seal so that he could release the Tanuki. Shukaku made his presence known a month before leaving Wave, and he agreed to tame down his personality quite a bit. Unfortunately, his high-pitched, shrill voice took a while for everyone to get used to. As he spent more time out of the seal, the Senju family agreed that he became tolerable. He wasn't going to win the most charming friend of the year anytime soon, but he was tolerable. Hinata started her apprenticeship with Tsunade as a combat medic, doctor and lethal badass kunoichi. She may have been severely far behind the group's average, but it was blatantly clear that everyone wanted her there, and they all chipped in to help the Hyuga heiress catch up. Hinata had a very solid base to work with, and she slid right into the daily routine. It was good that she joined in Wave, because between the time in Wave and Kiri, it provided the ideal opportunity to master her water elemental affinity. In addition to training, Hinata joining the group made for a happier Gaara. The two were both incredibly awkward and hilariously shy compared to the other couples in the Senju villa. It was endearing to watch both of them slide into their relationship and become more comfortable in their own skins. Naruto noticed that Gaara was growing more protective and more expressive as the young blue-haired kunoichi became a fixture in the Senju family. Naruto still hadn't come closer to the state of enlightenment that Hashirama spoke of. He had an overwhelming amount of power, speed and jutsu at his disposal, but he still lacked the pinnacle jutsu of Hashirama. On the bright side, Naruto and Kurama were completely synced and they could send power back and forth to one another. In fact, it was in this way that they aided in Kokuo's complete recovery. Aside from Kokuo, Naruto could enter Kurama Sage Mode, as they dubbed it, which seamlessly integrated Senjutsu Chakra with Kurama's yokai. This mode made Naruto an SS class shinobi and a truly terrifying being, but he still felt like something was missing. As far as Kokuo goes, the Biju had bonded well with Naruto and he truly enjoyed his freedom from the seal and ability to walk around. That being said, he wasn't truly integrating into Naruto either. Naruto couldn't access his chakra for a Biju cloak or anything like that, but he was able to start working with steam release. There wasn't much of a point to it in terms of combat power, but Naruto decided to practice it because it helped him gain access to the fire element. Kokuo was more than happy to train Naruto as payment for saving him from the necessity of reforming. One of the things that the Senju family concluded was that Naruto would need to find a way to release Kokuo or transfer him to another Jinchuuriki. After explaining the danger of the Akatsuki, and promising that Kokuo would have his choice of Jinchuuriki, Kokuo agreed to go into another if and when they find the proper host. Thus, the search began, but Kokuo had already chosen a partner worthy of his trust and power. It all led to this conversation in the Senju compound 2 weeks before leaving. Kokuo, in his human form outside of the seal, sat on a chair next to Kurama and addressed the Senju family. Okay, so after talking about it extensively with Naruto, we agreed that it would be better for me to move to a different partner. Gaara nodded, but Shikaku asked the question on everyone's mind, have you decided on one of us or are you going to continue looking? Patience, brother. Please. Kokuo chided. I have made my choice, but she must agree as well. This drew speculative glances from those in the room, but Temari felt Naruto's hand give a comforting squeeze to her own. Feeling that, Temari spoke up hesitantly, Ko, who did you decide on? Kokuo looked at her in a serious manner, but there was an air of compassion in the stern gaze. You, dear girl. Temari was taken aback, and everyone actually nodded at the choice. Ino immediately moved into a supportive role and hugged Temari from behind. After a moment, Temari recomposed herself and lifted her gaze to Kokuo. Why me? Kokuo smiled endearingly at Temari. I have come to appreciate Naruto and this whole family. You are the only humans I trust and as such you are the only options for me. As for why you, I would say it is because I synchronize best with your personality, and I would complement your jutsu arsenal best. Imagine a steam cloud propelled by your potent wind chakra. The thought sent shivers down everyone's spine, but it was Yami that spoke what was on everyone's mind. That's fucking terrifying. Melt whole battlefields alive. Naruto decided to speak up. I have talked to Ko a lot during the training trip. Sure, it helps that Temari is heavily synchronized with me. Sure, it is a matter of trust. However, it all comes down to the fact that Anko just had a child, Ino is pregnant, Tsunade is already SS rank, Shizune is more inclined to settle down in the hospital, Gaara already has Shukaku and Hinata isn't really compatible. It was a direct breakdown, but that was the Senju's style. It makes sense to me, Mari. How do you feel about it? Tsunade asked in a motherly tone. Temari looked around the room before asking her next question, do you think I can handle it? Would I even be a good Jinchuuriki? Kurama decided to speak up here, Temari, you are an amazing woman, and you are a truly worthy mate for my partner. We wouldn't ask you if we didn't believe you could handle it. Think about it, you grew up around Gaara and Shukaku. Your soulmate is a Jinchuuriki. It will allow you to enter this impending fight against the Akatsuki and Iwa with an ace up your sleeve. Kokuo offered a weak smile, now faintly scared of being rejected. For what it is worth, I believe you are the right choice. Temari nodded weakly, okay then, what do I need to do? Naruto took over here, well, we will do a sealing ritual and I will slowly transfer Kokuo's yokai to you. Since he is willing, it will make it a much easier process. I have already chosen the seal that Kokuo wishes to use, and it will allow him the liberties that he had in my seal. The process will be uncomfortable, it will throw your chakra into chaos, and you will need a couple months to recover and adapt to his yokai. That would mean you miss out on Kiri because I don't want to walk around with a Biju beacon for the Akatsuki. You will be safe here in Wave and you can watch over Ino, Himawari and the kids for me. Tamari looked sad at the thought of being separated from her lover, but then Ino gave her a squeeze and she forced a smile onto her face. Okay, Ko, if you are sure then all I need to do is ask Daddy. The next day, Naruto focused for 10 minutes to find his Hiraishin Kunai in Suna before he placed a hand on Temari's shoulder and flashed the two of them to Suna. They ended up in the Cage mansion and quickly went to Raza's office for a very uncomfortable conversation. The long and short of it was that Raza would be happy to have another Jinchuuriki as the Cage, but he was terrified as a father. Naruto assured him that the transition wouldn't be too bad and that this would need to remain a family secret. Nobody, especially not Konoha, would need to know. Upon getting Raza's blessing, the couple returned to the family in Wave and got an uneasy night's sleep. The next day Naruto set up the sealing circle and applied the seal to Tamari. It took 3 days to slowly transfer Kokuo's yokai and consciousness into Tamari and it was an uncomfortable process to say the least. It was exhausting for Naruto, Tamari and Tsunade despite the fact that the whole Senju family was there to support. In the end, Tamari ended up on bedrest for the remainder of the group's time in Wave so that she could adapt to Kokuo's presence in her body. A fiery meeting in Water Country. The shrunken Senju group stepped off the ship after a week-long journey across the elemental ocean and there were more than a few that kissed dry land. Gaara was severely missing Tamari, and he was very grateful to be back on dry land after hovering over the ocean for days on end. The group laughed at the childish display from the usually stoic and composed Suna Jinchuuriki. Yami was right there with him, and Kurama wasn't faring much better. It was the first time Tsunade got the chance to see a non-suave version of the legendary Kitsune, which she committed to memory for future laughs. Naruto was glad the trip was over, but it honestly wasn't so bad for him. The cheater took advantage of the Hiraishin and spent a couple nights of the week checking in on Ino and Tamari throughout the week. That being said, he didn't want to leave the altars alone for too long and Hikari was deadest on experiencing the ocean in all its glory. She dragged Naruto out to the head of the ship and would stand over the railing with Naruto securing her from behind. She relished in the opportunity to get some quality alone time with Naruto, who she truly considered a big brother. That two sitting on the front of the ship chatting and spending quality time together became a common sight for Tsunade, Jiraiya and a moderately seasick Kurama. As the boat docked in the main point of Kirigakure, the group got the opportunity to see a truly unique aquamarine city landscape. The city was built in a staggered fashion into the bluffs overlooking the ocean port which offered a descalating cityscape that sank down into the port. The port itself was surrounded by towers and cannons and there was a steady mist that hung over the beautiful, blue ocean city. Naruto could see the remnants of battle, but he was glad to see that most of the damage from the prolonged war had been cleaned up. Maid Terumi watched on as 3 members of the Senju group rid themselves of seasickness of some ridiculous land-worshipping ritual. It was strange for a girl that grew up in the mist and ocean. She met gazes with Tsunade Senju, and she couldn't suppress a jealous shudder. Mei is and will always be a woman of exquisite beauty, but that woman was supposed to be in her 50s and she walked onto her beach like an absolute bombshell. The beauty of the Senju woman was further enhanced as she walked up to Mei with a beautiful family, the only thing Mei really wanted in life. It wasn't her fault that the men around her either didn't see how beautifully magnificent she was or if they were too terrified to step up. Sighing herself out of her usual rant, she processed the other members of the Senju group walking onto her beach. The blonde spitting image of the 4th Hokage was a beautiful specimen of a man, and she knew that she owed that particular man quite a bit. She watched him walk confidently with his chest out and shoulders back as he took in her city with the confidence of a trained professional. She licked her lips when she saw that he was walking into her city alone. Lady Mizukage, should we not go and greet them? It would be improper of us to let them wander around the city alone. Ow, Mei's bodyguard said. While that was what Ao said, Mei heard, Mizukage, improper lady, wander alone. Mei clicked her teeth and scowled, Ow, shut up, or I'll kill you. While Ao and Chojuro were slowly backing away from Mei, Naruto looked up and saw the group standing on the level above them. Seeing Mei again, Naruto had another memory pushed to the front of his mind. Flashback. After recovering in a field hospital, Naruto woke up in the medical tent and some surviving Konoha ninjas immediately informed him that the cages wanted to see him. After getting himself dressed in a black combat shirt and throwing on the remnants of his orange pants, Naruto left the tent. He was escorted to the command tent that was set up as the Allied forces struggled to collect bodies, count casualties and round up survivors. The camp was lively despite the many injuries that could be seen on almost every surviving shinobi. Naruto entered through flap to the command tent and saw that the cages were sitting around a table made of earth chakra and the conversation froze as the 16-year-old entered the tent. Naruto looked at the beautiful Mizukage and couldn't suppress the blush that forced itself upon his face. He saw Kakashi sitting in Tsunade's seat and wondered what he missed. He offered a wave to Gaara, who replied with a slight nod of the head and a minimal lift on the edges of his lips. He saw Kuretsuchi sitting in the Iwa seat and Darui sitting in the seat for Kumo. Clearly, he had missed a lot. As the conversation progressed, Kurama awoke in his mind and cautioned Naruto that something felt off, very, very off. As he sat down and the conversation progressed, his feelings were confirmed as the topic of conversation almost immediately changed to the Biju. Naruto didn't hesitate to take the floor and advocate for a change to the status quo. He wanted the Biju to either be free of shinobi society and sent to someplace safe or have them integrated into shinobi society to work alongside shinobi. Of course, this was a hard sell that sent the wheels going round and round for hours. It was on that day that the leaders of the elemental nations learned that they should give up on trying to make Naruto give up. After the first meeting, Mei caught Naruto on the way out. The close proximity and relative privacy the two had made Naruto gulp deeply as he fought the losing fight to keep his eyes up. As Mei let out a flirty chuckle, she also placed a hand on his shoulder. "For what it is worth, Naruto, I like your idea for a better world," she said in a soft tone. Naruto beamed a gigawatt smile at Mei. Thanks Lady Mizukage. He started rubbing the back of his neck sheepishly. "It's just that when I met the sage and made friends with the Biju, I realized I could never condone enslaving them again." Mei smiled sadly at the naive boy. "Yes, Naruto, I know you believe that. I want you to know that I will not get in your way, but I cannot offer my overt support. I need to focus on gathering my nation back together and do what is right by my people." Naruto's smile fell and weariness settled over his azure blue eyes. "Look, Lady Mei, if you won't take a stand, then they will plunge this world back into the cycle of hatred. For what? Why? There is no reason to let it happen, and it takes powerful women like you to keep the men and boys of this world on the right path. Please, Lady Mei, I need your help." Mei pulled Naruto into a hug and whispered softly into his ear, "I will offer what little help I can, but I will be taking my surviving forces back to Kiri at the end of the week. I don't need my Biju back, and quite frankly my people won't want them walking around water country. You have all of the Biju, you are the strongest ninja in there." She stopped there and placed a soft kiss on his forehead, and her tone changed from sorrowful to playful. "Don't let them walk all over you, and when you are done, make sure to come to Kiri. I will take you out for a drink." With that, Mei Terumi sauntered with a sway in her hips away from Naruto and the memory faded. End of flashback. Naruto sighed at the memory because if Mei took a firmer stand, then it would have been a key to preventing Sasuke's rise to influence. Naruto could forgive Mei for her decision, and he had made peace with her a long time ago. Now, he just wanted to cash in on that drink and enjoy getting to know Kiri this time around. Hopefully his efforts in this life had made her a staunch ally that he could rely on if push comes to shove. Tsunade had locked onto Mei shortly after scooping up her vomiting kin off the beach. As the Senju group recomposed themselves, she waved to Mei and the two groups began walking towards one another. The greetings were pleasant, and Mei's greeting to Naruto, a big, bosomed hug and a kiss on the cheek, may have been considered overly friendly. It left Tsunade sniggering into her sleeve and Naruto blushing out of nervousness and terror. He really didn't want Ino or Temari hearing about any advances the Mizukage may or may not make. As the group was walking through the city, it rapidly became clear to Naruto that the people of Water Country and Kirigakure appreciated all that the Mizukage had done for them. This was an easy topic of conversation, so he opened the serious talk up. Lady May, it looks as if the war never happened. How are repairs and rebuilding going? Naruto asked. May paused her side conversation gossip session with Tsunade and sent a seductive smile at Naruto. Oh, well thank you for that Naruto. All of the help you sent our way has been a definite help in getting Kiri back on its feet. Unfortunately, Kiri is the exception to the norm in water country. Most villages other than the capital are in rough shape. Tsunade scoffed, what's the water daimyo doing about it? Come to think of it, who is the water daimyo? May frowned a bit before answering, the current daimyo is Lord Mizure and he is the son of the man that let his country be in a sustained civil war for a decade. So, I take it you aren't friendly with him or his father? Naruto asked. Ao stepped in here, relations aren't bad, more like indifferent. May scoffed at that, more like he is trying to tie aid and support in return for making me his concubine. Tsunade growled, Kurama took her hand to comfort her, and Naruto's chakra flared. Overall, the Senju family was disgusted to hear that, and it drew attention from the surrounding population, especially the shinobi of Kiri. It took some calming from May and Ao before the Senjus calmed down, and it wasn't long after that Naruto spoke. Okay, well fuck him then. I am here and will be here for a couple months. I am sure you have heard about my Mokuten, and I am offering a special discount to my friends of Kiri. I will build houses, set up seal protection and make farms at 50% off with zero interest for the next 5 years. You just need to tell me what you want and where you want it. May, Ao and Chojuro were so stunned that they suddenly stopped walking. That was massive and it would help her country recover further. In a surprising act for those that didn't know May, she ran up behind Naruto and swept him into a back-breaking hug and she began planting kisses all over his face. Her red lipstick left sensual imprints all over the young, mortified Senju heir. Tsunade coughed, May, my grandson is already accounted for, so please refrain from that. She made an open-palmed gesture at May's display. May pouted, come on Tsunade. You can't just bring a hunky savior into my village and deny me my fun. Kurama barked out a laugh, Kokuo's shoulders were shaking, Rias was already rolling on the ground, Hikari was blushing while Yosuke and Yami were standing there with stoic looks on their faces. It was Gaara that decided to speak up for the first time now that he was feeling better after his stomach settled. Lady May, one of those women is my sister, so I would appreciate it if you expressed your gratitude in a more appropriate manner. Gaara's monotone cut through the funny and awkward tension. May frowned before she perked up a bit, one of. Tsunade face-palmed herself while Naruto was still struggling in May's grasp. Way to spill the beans kiddo. Sorry mama. Gaara said looking abashedly down at his feet. May's insistent and hopeful look demanded an answer out of Tsunade. My blonde kiddo there is engaged to 2 beautiful women. They stayed back in wave on family business. Era, if there are already 2, then what's one more? May whispered sensually into Naruto's ear. This made Naruto's face go beet red as wisps of steam spouted out of his ears. May was truly a magnificent specimen of a woman. Her lustrous red-orange hair, the sensual hourglass figure, the form-fitting blue dress that exposed an ample amount of cleavage and the power of a cage to boot. Naruto recomposed himself and put an end to the flirty game by using a kawarimi with Ao, who appeared in the Mizukage's grasp. Like a switch was flipped, May's flirty smile turned to a scowl, and she threw Ao out of her arms with a humph of disgust. Naruto cast an apologetic look at May. Look, Lady May, I am flattered that you would be interested in me, I truly am. Your beauty is otherworldly, much like my mama, and any guy would be lucky to have you. I am already blessed with 2 wonderful women, and I would never betray their trust. May's features softened as she listened to Naruto before she let out a resigned sigh, why are all the good ones taken? The group walked into the Mizukage's tower and Naruto broke out into a fit of laughter when he saw the great and feared Zabuza Momochi playing the role of the Mizukage's secretary. The imposing man immediately scowled when he saw Naruto and he hopped to his feet while reaching for a phantom sword. His hand fumbled around, looking for a hilt that he had grown accustomed to, and Zabuza's scowl deepened when he realized that he still didn't have his sword back. What are you doing here, brat? Zabuza growled. May was about to chastise her subordinate, but Naruto raised a hand and stopped her. With a cheery smile, Naruto addressed Zabuza, oh, heya Zabuza-chan. I never took you for someone that appreciated desk work. Many sniggers could be heard around the room and Zabuza was 2 seconds away from launching himself over the desk. That was until a firm glare from Mei fixed him in place. Zabuza had lost every spar against Mei thus far and he still remembers the lava-fueled ass-whooping Mei gave him upon his return to Kiri. Zabuza clenched his fists and deepened his scowl. Yeah, well it's your fault. If I still had Kubokiribocho then I would sever your head from your shoulders for what you did to me. Naruto looked to Mei, then Tsunade, then back to Zabuza. You didn't learn your lesson the first time around. Too bad. Where's Haku? Zabuza was unable to restrain himself any further. His embarrassment was one thing, but Haku was his adopted daughter, and he didn't like this punk sniffing around his beautiful princess of a daughter. Zabuza launched himself over the desk and was intercepted by Ao and Chojuro who held him at bay. Zabuza shouted over the shoulders of his fellow Kiri shinobi. You stay away from my daughter, you cursed brat. And, if I had my sword, then I would make you eat those words. I underestimated you the first time around. That was all. A devious idea came to mind and Kurama could already tell what his partner was thinking. He gave Naruto a sly nod, so Naruto turned to Mei. Lady Mizukage, I wish for Kubokiribocho to be returned to Zabuza. He has suffered enough for his crimes against my people. I also request a duel between Zabuza-chan and myself to settle this once and for all. If I win the duel, I will take what Zabuza holds most precious. Mei was backed into a corner now. This fool had once again offended one of her greatest supporters and ruined things for her. Naruto had every right to request a duel after such a display and she had little reason to refuse him. With a resigned sigh, Mei answered Naruto. Very well, Lord Senju, I will set the duel up for 3 days from now. Zabuza, what do you wish for if you win the duel? Zabuza growled, the kid's head will be just fine for me. Naruto cocked his head to the side and looked into Zabuza's beady eyes. What did I ever do to you? I stopped you from harassing my people, I beat you in a duel, I spared your life after you violated the terms of the duel, I helped your country with its rebellion, and I sent you back to your country. I fail to see what I have done to earn your ire except wound your inflated pride. At that moment, Haku appeared in front of Zabuza and put a calming hand on his shoulder. The big man visibly relaxed into Haku's touch, and his growl subsided. Haku turned to Naruto and bowed to him. Please forgive my father, Lord Senju. He is a proud man, and he has been repeatedly humbled since his defeat at your hands. Haku's voice was soft and melodious, and it broke the tension in the room. Ao and Chojuro stayed quiet, but Mei didn't. She broke out into a fit of giggles. Oh, Haku, you just hurt your father's pride far worse than this boy here. He. Okay then, Zabuza, you may go to the armory and get your sword. You will be allowed the next few days off for your duel. If you win your duel without killing this man, then you will be allowed to rejoin the 7 swordsmen and you will be relieved from your duty as my secretary. Zabuza bowed to Mei, HMPHED, and then stormed out of the room. Mei watched Zabuza go before turning her head toward Naruto, smiling seductively and nodding toward her office. Shall we? The Senju family followed Mei into the office where they sat comfortably on Mei's blue couches that faced each other. Mei sat in an ornate-looking blue chair in view of the 2 couches and crossed her left leg over her right, giving everyone a nice view of her long, toned legs through the slit of her blue dress. Naruto, Kurama and Gaara made a show of averting their eyes while Tsunade just scoffed at the obvious attempt. All right, my valued investors, to what do I owe the pleasure of your company? Mei left the pleasantry at the doors of her office, which made Chojuro fidget in agitation. Naruto looked to Tsunade, who decided to take the lead. Well, Mei, we are on a training trip, and we are making the rounds to prevent something catastrophic. Mei cocked an eyebrow and Tsunade continued. The man that was controlling Yagura, a man going by the name of Madara Uchiha, is leading an organization of S-rank apostates called the Akatsuki. I believe Naruto informed you of this. Mei shook her head, clearly not all of it. Mei's single visible eye peered into Naruto's azure blues. So, what would you have me do? Naruto took over here. Look, Lady Mei, I shared what needed to be shared. I hadn't met you and I owe you no explanation further than that. Mei's visible eyebrow rose. Well, okay then, but my question still stands. What would you have me do? Naruto sighed, realizing he might have come across a slight bit dickish. My apologies Mei, I had to deal with Konoha constantly giving me that look. I have only ever communicated with you via letter or communication scroll, in his mind he added, in this life. Mei held up her hands in a placating gesture. Okay, Naruto, I get it. So, what are we doing about the Akatsuki and this so-called Madara? Well, first things first, he isn't Madara. That being said, if worst comes to worst, he can revive Madara. Second, I have denied them the Kyuubi, the Hachibi, the Gobi, the Nibi and the Ikibi. Gaara here is the Ikibi Jinchuuriki and he is easily, S, rank now. For the time being, I have put that organization on notice. Mei gave Naruto a look that said, so what do you need me for? What I need from you is the location of the Rokubi, the six-tailed slug, Seiken. Mei looked hesitant and slightly nervous. I don't know. We have looked for Utakata for the past year and he is nowhere to be found. Naruto sighed, I kinda figured, me actually defying them made them find the ones yet to be secured. Okay, Mei, then what I need from you is to prepare your people. Get Kiri back on its feet and get it ready for war. Mei looked affronted at this, you can't tell me to get my people ready for war and then not elaborate. Tsunade took over and attempted to placate Mei, we have information, and it isn't good. It is also not something that we can handle on our own. They have a megacore, an army of plant creatures and they are likely taking over, or working with, Iwagacore. Mei looked taken aback at that. Why? Was the one stunned question she asked. It was Naruto's turn to play the bluff card they had prepared. Hopefully, he had earned enough trust with Mei for her to buy it. Because they want to enslave the world, or at least that is what Kurama tells me. Naruto nodded toward Kurama. Mei looked at the fiery red man and licked her lips, forgetting the tense situation and discussion in preference of taking in the godlike man. And who are you, Mr. Kurama? Kurama smirked deviously, which turned Mei on even more. I am what you would refer to as the Kyuubi no Kitsune. Silence, dead and uninterrupted silence permeated the room until the Senju family burst out laughing at the gobsmacked looks on Mei's, Ao's and Chojiro's faces. The Kiri trio remained stunned for quite a while before they snapped back to reality. How is he out of the seal? Ao asked in a disbelieving voice. And how does he have such a handsome human form? Mei added, bring a tick mark to Tsunade's temple. Kurama shrugged and leaned back into the couch. I have the kid there to thank for this. He found a way for me to temporarily leave the seal. Makes life in captivity a lot more amenable when I can get out and mingle among you humans. Turns out when you mix handsome blonde and dapper fox you get handsome kitsune male. Naruto couldn't help but laugh at that, toot your own horn much, Q. Kurama chuckled, hey Kit, she said it, not me. Tsunade bonked Kurama on the head and whispered in his ear, keep flirting with the siren and you can sleep in your own bed tonight. Kurama instantly quieted and withdrew from the conversation. Wow, okay, well, that is a lot to take in. So, what do you plan on doing here while in Kiri? Mei asked, trying to wrap her head around the conversation. Naruto took over here, well, I wouldn't mind brushing up on my kenjutsu, which we can do after I humble your demon, and I will also take jobs from you and help you get back on your feet. While I am doing that, you can train Hinata on water techniques, Gaara on countering water techniques and I will let my siblings do what they want. Don't forget me, Gaki. Jiraiya added, realizing that he had been forgotten nearly the whole time. For the great Toad Sannin, it was really depressing that the Mizukage hadn't even taken notice of him, not even once. Everyone's attention shifted to the legendary pervert who was leaned up against the wall and observing the conversation. Oh, Jiraiya, what do you want? I didn't even realize you were still here. Naruto said blankly. Jiraiya scoffed, well, I thought we were here to get an ally for Konoha. Isn't that why you supported the rebels? Naruto suppressed the urge for facepalm. This man seriously lacked the subtlety required for international diplomacy. Look, Grandpa, how about I just do what is right and let Lady Mei and Kiri come to their own conclusion? Jiraiya frowned, look, Gaki, I have let you conduct this training trip because you said it was in Konoha's best interests. And it is. Now shut up, sit down and let the adults talk, Jiraiya. Tsunade said forcefully. Mei giggled as Jiraiya pouted in the corner. Tsunade was the only person in the elemental nations that could always cow Jiraiya. Mei took in the tense situation and realized that Konoha wasn't exactly in the good books of the Senju family. Figuring she could dig for more information later, and without Jiraiya listening, she let it drop. Okay, well, why don't we get you set up in my seaside estate and we can get down to business tomorrow? Naruto, if you are offering, then I will take you up on your offer to build housing and other buildings with your Mokuden. Naruto stood and bowed politely, as you wish, Lady Mizukage. 3 days later, a demonic rematch. Zabuza had trained like a madman to scrape off the rust that had accumulated over the last year. He truly hated the Senju boy because being a missing nin was better than being Mei's poster boy. His return to Kiri was supposed to be glorious and bloody, but instead it was anticlimactic. The Kiri forces were demoralized and there wasn't even a final boss when he arrived in the city. Then, the worst happened. Mei decided to enforce his punishment once the war was officially over. She took his sword, she took his job, and she took his dignity, all because he raided some island that was protected by some brat. As if he were supposed to know that the Senju brat was the protector of Wave. That was why, yes, that was why Zabuza craved the kid's blood, and he was going to use Kubokiribocho to get it. Zabuza walked into Kiri's arena, and he took a deep whiff. He always did appreciate the smell of blood in the sands of the arena and the age-old story that the blood told him. He reached an arm back and his hand met the hilt of Kubokiribocho, which filled him with a sense of comfort and strength. He growled beneath his bandages as he looked around the arena in an attempt to find his bratty opponent. After clearing the arena, he looked up to the cage's box and saw the brat sitting on the railing just chatting casually with Mei. Damned brat is going to die for not taking him seriously. Naruto heard the crowd's volume increase and he sensed Zabuza entering the arena. Truth be told, he was enjoying his conversation with Mei, and he didn't really feel like fighting. Oh well, a man has gotta do what a man's gotta do. With a casual wink at Mei and a smirk from Tsunade, Naruto leaned back over the railing and flipped into the arena. As his feet hit the arena floor, a flurry of sand spread, and a small dust cloud covered his lower body. Naruto turned with a cocky smirk on his face for the express purpose of pissing Zabuza off. Jiraiya couldn't believe he was roped into doing this. The damn Gaki treats him like the plague 1 second and then asks him to be the proctor of a spar the next. Jiraiya had given up on trying to figure Naruto out and he had resigned himself to enjoy the ride and hopefully earn the brat's forgiveness. With those thoughts aside, Jiraiya stepped forward and addressed the fighters and the surprisingly full audience. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, I am the Toad Sannin Jiraiya, and I will be the proctor of this duel today. What many of you don't know is that the man, Naruto Uzumaki Senju, is my grandson. You may not know that he was a supporter of your rebellion and at some point, during his adventures he crossed swords with Zabuza Momochi and beat him in single combat. He then sent Zabuza back to Lady Mei Terumi so that he could join the rebels' efforts. Evidently, this left a sour taste in the demon of the hidden mist's mouth, and he challenged my brat to another duel. Jiraiya paused here due to the jeers and boos of the crowd, which were surprisingly aimed at Zabuza. With a chuckle and shake of his head, Jiraiya continued. Now, today the stakes of the duel are as follows. If Naruto wins, then he gets to take what Zabuza holds most precious. If Zabuza wins, well, he wants my kid's head. This will be a Kenjutsu-only fight and will only go until I call the fight. If I stop a death blow, then that will mark the end of the fight. It seems like the fighters wish to talk before the fight starts, and I always love dramatics, so let's give them the mic. The audience fell silent in an attempt to catch the pre-fight banter. Of course, it was Zabuza that led things off while Naruto stood there smirking. You Kami damned brat. I wanted a fight and you just had to go and make a spectacle of it. Zabuza growled while gripping his cleaver. Naruto shrugged, nah, not me, Zabuza-chan. I simply listened to Lady Mei. Truth be told, I could give a fuck less about this fight. Zabuza's growl damn near turned into a bark. You think you can fight me without taking me seriously? You are just a brat that got lucky last time around. Naruto yawned and went through some exaggerated stretches. Are you done yet or do you want to keep digging your own grave? Zabuza forced out a laugh. Oh, please brat. You can't beat me in a straight Kenjutsu fight. You aren't even a real ninja in my book. It was Naruto's turn to laugh here and laugh he did. He actually started rolling around laughing before he got to a knee and started slapping his knee. Oh, Kami. The irony is too good. For those of you that don't know, Zabuza doesn't consider you a real ninja unless you are in the bingo book. Tell me, Zabuza-chan, when was the last time you checked the bingo book? Zabuza shrugged, wouldn't matter anyway. You are fresh out of your diapers. Ain't no way you're in the book. If you were, you would be in the small fry section. Naruto abruptly stopped laughing and reached into his pocket. There was a small puff of chakra smoke and Naruto pulled out a black book that Zabuza recognized. Naruto flipped almost halfway through the book and began reading aloud. Zabuza Momochi, the Demon of the Hidden Mist, overall threat ranking, A. Okay then, nobody cares about the rest of this one-trick pony's details. Hidden Mist Jutsu, a couple water techniques and the Kubokiribocho. Now, Zabuza, I am in this book. You are page 97. Naruto started laughing again before he asked his next question. What page do you think I am? Zabuza's confidence was starting to get shaken and he really didn't like where this was going. Therefore, he decided to grunt and held his hand out so the brat would hand over the bingo book and get this show over with. Naruto tossed the book over and Zabuza started looking through the book, except he started at the A ranks. He then flipped all the way through the book and scoffed. Brat, you aren't even in here. He then started laughing boisterously until he saw Naruto holding up his index finger. Zabuza cocked his head and Naruto continued to put up one finger. With a resigned sigh, Zabuza flipped to the first page and his eyes went wide. Zabuza stared in disbelief at the first page of the newest issue bingo book. He was so stunned, he didn't even notice when Naruto walked over and took his copy of the bingo book back. So, Zabuza-chan, my little demon, are you ready to get started? Naruto said with a maniacal growl. Up in the cage's box, Kurama was laughing, Tsunade was chuckling, and Mei was looking on in amazement. Truth be told, she hadn't had time to pay attention to events going on outside of Kiri. That's my kit. It is moments like this that make me so proud. Kurama said, wiping a joyful tear from his eye. Tsunade shook her head, but she couldn't wipe the smile off of her face. I think he gets that from you. You know, that slightly sadistic side of his. He just won the fight before it even started. Mei tore her eyes away from the perfect man and asked, do you have a copy of that bingo book? Tsunade chuckled and handed over the bingo book, page 1. Mei's eyes widened and her mouth hung open as she looked at Naruto's entry in the bingo book. She whispered out in shock, he killed Onoki and Han. Yup, he kinda lost his shit. One of his fiancées was killed in front of him and he ripped them both to pieces. Kurama informed the Mizukage. Oh, okay, Mei replied, not knowing what else to say. Still, Q, do you think he is good enough to win a purely kenjutsu fight? Tsunade asked, a bit of concern lacing her voice. Kurama shrugged, depends on how much he wants to play with him. If he goes all out, it will be over in seconds. If he doesn't use Sage Mode, doesn't use my chakra and keeps a couple seals on, then it will be a fight. Back on the field, Naruto was asking Zabuza that exact question. Well, Zabuza-chan, do you wish to fight me at my strongest, or do you want to fight me handicapped? Zabuza growled again, but this was a growl of uncertainty. You mean those freaky markings you had on your face last time? Or your biju, since you are evidently a Jinchuuriki? Naruto shrugged and yawned once more, either one. But I was actually asking if you want me to keep my weight and resistance seals on. Zabuza could only take so much demoralization before he was forced to turn it into rage. He could not and would not back down. Fight me man to man. Take off your damned seals but don't use your borrowed power. Naruto's attitude did a 180. Look here, motherfucker, ain't nothing about mastering the Kyuubi's chakra or using Sage Mode as borrowed. I earned every ounce of that power. You think it is easy to control something as strong as the Kyuubi no Kitsune? You think it is easy to control Senjutsu chakra, chakra that is so potent it will turn you to stone if you go out of balance with nature. Go fuck yourself. Let's get this over with. Naruto held out his hands and 5 seals glowed on his wrists, ankles and sternum. Naruto shook out his arms and legs, jumped nearly 40 feet in the air and then unsealed Benihime. He held Benihime's scabbard in his left hand and kept the blade sheathed while clicking open the safety latch. Naruto looked meaningfully to Jiraiya, who then looked to Zabuza to confirm that he was ready to start the match. Zabuza nodded stiffly and took Kubokiribocho into his right hand. The crowd roared as Jiraiya took a coin out of his pocket and flipped it into the air. As the coin impacted the soft dirt of the arena, Zabuza blurred forward holding his cleaver to his bottom right leg and he began with an uppercut strike. Naruto performed a lightning-fast sidestep and countered with a blow to Zabuza's temple with the scabbard of Benihime as he began a spin slash with Benihime. Naruto's katana was sheathed in an enormous amount of wind chakra that extended the blade nearly 3 feet longer than its metal. The wind blade smashed forcefully into Kubokiribocho and left the first knack of the fight in Zabuza's blade. As Naruto's spin strike was stopped, he spun counterclockwise, away from the block, and dipped down which sent his strike at Zabuza's calf. Zabuza struggled to maneuver his sword for another block. He growled because he was never meant to fight defensively. In an attempt to regain the initiative, Zabuza lashed out with a straight kick in an attempt to catch the brat. Naruto dodged the kick and continued to spin and dance his way around Zabuza while he kept Zabuza on his back foot. The whirling tide sword style was actually a kenjutsu style modeled after the ancient dances of the Uzumaki clan. The clan incorporated the natural movements of the tides into their sword style and the katas of the style could be called a dance. Like the waves, the style crashes into the opponent with unrelenting power. Like the tide, the style ebbs and flows, in and out of the opponent's reach and guard. Like water, the style is slippery and difficult to catch. Like the whirlpool, the style wears the opponent out and grinds them to dust with the might of the ocean. Zabuza could never gain the initiative in the fight. The kid was too fast, his sword was too dangerous and Kubokiribocho had seen better days. The damned Uzumaki sword was terrifying and the wind blade over it was menacing. It was nearly invisible, but Zabuza knew it was there. Each time his cleaver blocked the relentless strikes, Kubokiribocho groaned in pain and paid the price in metal. Zabuza had yet to let his cleaver taste the kid's blood and the blade was starting to look shabby due to the repeated abuses. As Naruto transitioned from a counterclockwise spin with an overhead strike, Zabuza threw his cleaver into a two-handed blocking position. Therefore, he wasn't ready when the blow didn't impact his sword and he felt a stabbing pain in his gut. He looked down and saw a wakizashi had just stabbed through his side. Naruto had dropped the sheath of Benihime and was now holding the wakizashi in a reverse grip. Despite not being hit in a vital spot, Zabuza started bleeding profusely as Naruto pulled his wakizashi out of Zabuza's side and jumped back to reset the fight. Naruto took up the stance of the twin rampaging dragon tails stance that he had learned. Benihime was held out and diagonal behind Naruto's right side while Dragon's Roar was held in reverse grip across Naruto's chest. Naruto eyed Zabuza and threw him a cheeky grin, but that wasn't what scared Zabuza. What scared Zabuza was the battle-worn and slightly battle-crazed look in Naruto's eyes. Well, first blood goes to me, little demon. I could have ended the fight there, but Dragon's Roar wanted a chance to enjoy the battle. Naruto said in a playful tone that contrasted sharply with his serious battle stance. Zabuza grunted, "Alright Gaki, you are good." Zabuza ended his comment there and tried to recompose himself. Up in the cage's box, Mei was watching on with sparkling eyes as one of her best swordsmen was getting taken to task. She honestly couldn't believe what she was seeing, even after reading the bingo book. For the kid to be class in ninjutsu and still be so formidable and practiced with the sword was unbelievable. Tsunade, where did your kid learn to wield the sword? Tsunade smirked, well, he practices daily against Yosuke and Kurama there. There is also his summons that have helped him for the last year. The rest was him learning from the Uzumaki Kenjutsu scrolls. Yosuke chimed in, we never had a professional Kenjutsu tutor growing up. We fought and sparred against each other. We helped each other with the katas. We pointed out strengths and weaknesses of the styles. Then, the rest is physical training and chakra channeling. Unbelievable. What physical training can a young boy do to get that fast and strong? Mei said in with an air of awe and disbelief mingled in her voice. Kurama bellowed out a laugh, ha ha ha, chakra control from the world's strongest woman, chakra theory from the world's best medic, physical training from me improved upon by the medical knowledge of the world's sexiest surgeon, regeneration from his genetics and Kyuubi's chakra and finally an iron will that never gives up. That is how. Mei turned her head to the sexy redhead that was clearly flaunting his feelings for Tsunade. Oh ho. Are you and the Senju princess together then, Red? Tsunade and Kurama both blushed and looked down slightly before Kurama firmed his resolve. If and when she decides to have me, it would be the greatest honor of my lifetime. Tsunade's blush turned scarlet, and Mei giggled cutely before squealing like a fangirl. Oh my, how bold. Mei then sighed wistfully, if only Kami would bless me with such a man. Up in heaven, Kami heard Mei's blessing. That beautiful woman was afflicted by the curse of beauty. It had denied her happiness the last time around as well, and that didn't sit well with Kami. The woman was one of her chosen's allies, so Kami began scheming. Her scheming was disrupted by shouts of joy from the rowdy Uzumaki crowd that had gathered to watch the fight. Kami looked over the rowdy red-headed crowd and she chuckled at how much joy her chosen had brought to the pure world. Atta kid, show him what an Uzumaki can do. That's my boy. Make the Senju proud. Hey cousin. It is clearly the Uzumaki in him that is helping him decimate the demon of the mist. Oh, shove it Arashir. That kid is more Senju than Uzumaki. That strong body comes from the Senju. Oi, Kanit Tetsuyo. Let me be proud of my descendant. He is my descendant too. Kami sighed as a rowdy familial fight broke out once again in her domain. The two families sure did make it livelier. She hosted this viewing party in her stadium hoping that it would bring her realm together, but sometimes the rowdy Uzumaki and their stubborn Senju cousins took things a little too far. My apologies, Kami-sama. Mito Uzumaki Senju bowed her head in apology to the deity of the realm. Haha, gotta love good old-fashioned family get-togethers. Kushina overwrote Mito's apologies with a boisterous laugh. Tobarama sighed, we are acting like this in front of our creator. I feel you, great Uncle Toby. Minato said despondently. Kami let out a melodious laugh that echoed across her realm. It is quite alright you three. It has been much livelier around here since we all started tuning in again. Mito, is your husband still trapped with Susanoo? Mito sighed sadly, yes, he is still trapped in the drunken dreams inside his gourd. Kami snapped her fingers, don't worry, Mito. I will have a talk with my son Susanoo and get it sorted out. Hashi's soul was never Orochimaru's to give. That's it. Get him kiddo. That shout drew everyone's attention back to the fight. Naruto had re-engaged with Zabuza, who had given up on defense and thrown himself purely into offense. Zabuza had used the blood from his wound to repair some of the damage to Kubokiribocho and the blade was looking healthier. That didn't stop the endless strikes from Naruto's twin rampaging dragon tail style from ripping right back into it. In fact, since Naruto brought out his wakizashi and adopted his dual-wielding style, Zabuza had suffered numerous shallow cuts on his legs, arms, and shoulders. Zabuza grunted, panicking a bit at being so overwhelmed. The kid's style was graceful and yet mercilessly violent. The Gaki's speed was superior and his strength was at least even. When Zabuza was forced into a block, despite his cleaver's size, he would suffer a minor wound from the free blade. The battle was really starting to take a toll on him, and he couldn't think straight anymore due to the exhaustion and blood loss. Zabuza was panting, bleeding and sweating profusely as he struggled to keep himself composed. Summoning the last of his strength, Zabuza held Kubokiribocho up in a vertical stance over his head and closed his eyes. He focused his senses like he would during silent killing and tried to attune himself to the flow of the fight. Naruto watched on and felt as Zabuza's aura was calming down from its panicked state. He had prolonged the fight against Zabuza because it was an honestly fun battle. Sure, he could open the gates to Q's chakra or absorb some nature chakra and end it in a flash, but what fun would that be? No, Naruto wanted to savor the flavor of a real, high-level battle. Zabuza's eyes snapped open after he had recomposed himself and he dashed forward with his sword still overhead. Naruto saw the strike coming and was already sidestepping as the blade descended rapidly toward the top of his head. Naruto's eyes widened when he saw Zabuza spread his footing and flex his muscles to correct the trajectory of his cleaver from a chop to a horizontal swing with the flat of his blade. In the fraction of a second it took for Naruto to notice this, he was able to transition his blades into a cross guard. The blow impacted Naruto's X guard and it was still strong enough to send him tumbling backward. Naruto chose to relent to the momentum, and he began rolling before kicking out his right foot and flipping high into the air to dodge a follow-up blow from Zabuza. Zabuza saw the airborne Naruto and he dug Kubokiribocho out of the dirt, spun and transitioned into an uppercut slash. Naruto joined both swords together in parallel, forced Earth Chakra into them and enhanced their weight with Earth Chakra. The clang in midair didn't send Naruto higher, it actually dropped him with an enhanced weight onto the cleaver. Zabuza no longer had the strength to counter the rapid change in momentum of his trusty partner. In less than a second, his cleaver went from a swift uppercut to crashing into the ground with the Senju brat's blades digging into it. With a mighty crack, Kubokiribocho was snapped down the center of the blade. Zabuza was so stunned by the severing of his blade that he didn't process Naruto's swords held in executioner style in front of his neck. Before anything else could snowball out of control, Jiraiya jumped in and declared the winner. The winner of the duel is Naruto Senju Uzumaki. Zabuza slumped to his knees and held the broken cleaver up in front of him as his eyes widened in disbelief. In his whole career, his blade had never failed him. In his whole lift, he had never felt this powerless. With his whole heart, he didn't want to give up what was most precious to him. Hiku, Mei, Tsunade, Kurama, Gaara, Hinata, Rias, Hikari and Yami joined the two on the field. Most of the group went to congratulate Naruto, who was holding his two swords in the air in victory while soaking up the praise of the crowd. It was truly an awesome display of kenjutsu, and the people of Kiri always appreciated a good sword fight. Mei put a hand on Zabuza's shoulder. It was a good fight, Zabuza. You did the seven proud. Now, apologize to the brat and I will let you get back to reforming my seven. That snapped Zabuza out of it as he looked to his leader while on his knees, still holding his blade. Her words made his eyes snap back into focus, and he nodded his consent to his cage's orders. Hiku wrapped Zabuza in a comforting hug and whispered into his ear. You fought well, Master Zabuza. I am proud of you. Her soft words broke Zabuza, and he let the hilt of Kubokiribocho clatter to the ground as he wrapped his big arms around the girl he considered his adoptive daughter. His head fell into her shoulder, and he fought back against the tears threatening to pour out of his ducts. Thanks, Hiku, Zabuza said softly into the crook of her neck. No matter what happens, I want you to know that I. Hiku squeezed Zabuza, stopping him from forcing himself to say something that was obviously painful to him. Shish, it is all right. I will always be here for you. While those two had an almost touching moment, Naruto was done showboating, and he had resealed his blades. He walked over and grabbed the severed half of Kubokiribocho and then walked over to Zabuza to collect the hilt. Everyone watched on as Naruto aligned the blade before he cut his wrist open and poured blood onto the blade. With his free hand, coated in a red chakra, Naruto infused chakra into the blade that was soaking up his blood. Within a minute, the blade had fused back together and looked to be in mint condition. Naruto hefted the blade and whistled in awe. That is quite a blade. It is sad that such arts are lost to the modern world. Naruto spun the blade up and grabbed it by the end of the blade before offering it to Zabuza hilt first. Good fight, Zabuza. Zabuza was taken aback by Naruto's tone. It wasn't taunting or condescending. It wasn't jubilant or childish. It was respectful. Thanks, Gaki, Zabuza said with as much pride as he could muster. He then stood to his feet, grabbed Kubokiribocho and slung it over his back. He sighed in contentment as his partner slid into its place on his back. Well, Zabuza, it is time to pay up, Mei said seriously, which caught everyone off guard since her usual voice carried so much mirth and flirtiness in it. Zabuza hung his head when Naruto asked, So, Zabuza, what is most precious to you? Zabuza sat there, frozen stiff. He couldn't say it in front of her. The words wouldn't leave his mouth and he remained frozen in the center of the stadium as everyone watched on with curiosity. What did the demon of the hidden mist count as his most precious possession? Gaki, please don't, Zabuza whispered. Naruto walked over and put a hand on Zabuza's shoulder. He leaned in and whispered, It is Hiku, isn't it? Zabuza offered a weak nod in response. Please Lord Senju, please don't take her from me. Zabuza's voice was cracked, and he sounded on the verge of tears. Naruto smiled, Don't worry. You will have her back soon. I am just going to introduce her to some long-lost family. If you want to see her, you can find her and wave. Zabuza nodded weakly again, Just take her, don't make me say it out loud. I can't. You will. That is your punishment, Naruto replied in a serious whisper. With that, Naruto broke away from Zabuza and nodded to Mei. Zabuza Momochi, you will state what is most precious to you. You will then relinquish that to Naruto Senju Uzumaki per the terms of the duel. To refuse would mean your life. Mei said harshly, not understanding what the holdup was. Zabuza looked up and saw a comforting look in Naruto's eyes before he turned and looked at Haku. Tears were falling and soaking the bandages that covered his face, and this made Haku gasp. Kiddo, I never told you. I was never strong enough to tell you. That day, 7 years ago, when I picked you up, you saved me that day. I love you like I imagine a father would love his daughter. I never saw you as a tool. Haku had fallen to her knees with tears streaming down her angelic cheeks. She never dared to believe that Zabuza loved her. She never dared to see herself as anything more than a tool for him to accomplish his dreams. She loved the man that saved her, she loved him as her most precious person. Mustering her willpower, Haku jumped to her feet and jumped into an embrace with Zabuza. Everyone in the stadium was shocked by the display of love from a person most would consider a demon. It brought tears to everyone's eyes as the raw power of the moment overwhelmed them. As father and adoptive daughter hug unashamedly in the middle of the stadium, the audience was enraptured by the display of healing and love. Nobody knew exactly why, but everybody could tell that something truly significant happened. It was the raw power of love that moved the stadium to applaud and offer their support to the new leader of the 7 Swordsmen of the Mist. Even Naruto was crying, grateful that he at least gave Zabuza the chance to say that this time around. He never harbored hard feelings against the guy. Sure, he was mad that Zabuza attacked his people, but nobody died. He was more upset about Haku still being seen as a tool. In his previous life, she was the reason he mustered the courage to fight. She gave him one of his core guiding philosophies that he still held to this day. For that, Naruto taunted Zabuza into a fight. He asked Mei to set it up for a public display, and he whittled the man down so that he was exposed enough to admit his deepest, darkest secret. Matchmaker, Round 2. After the fight in the stadium, the Senju family and a couple important people from Kiri had a party at the beachside house the Senjus were staying at. It was a really nice place, and the atmosphere was lively. Zabuza, Haku, Mei, Chojuro, Ao, Mitsuki Ringo, daughter of Amayuri Ringo, and a couple other people were schmoozing and boozing with their influential guests. Stories of the rebellion and other battles were shared as drinks slowly disappeared from the bar. The Senju family members were missing their cuddle buddies as they watched Gaara and Hinata cuddle up on a love seat. It didn't help that Kurama and Tsunade were openly flirting with playful touches, innuendos and not so subtle innuendos. The rest of the alters drowned their misery in booze and distractions since Naruto said that he wouldn't flash back to Wave until their business in Wave was complete. They all fought the urge to ignore their guests and simply go to the communication scrolls. They hadn't seen their loved ones in almost 2 weeks, and that separation was a new feeling. So, tell me, Naruto, why does everyone look so sad? Mei asked as she joined Naruto on the beach. Naruto turned and met Mei's gaze before offering a sad smile. Well, for a couple reasons, most of us left our significant others back in Wave. It is the first time we have really been apart for a while. Mei now mirrored Naruto's sad smile before she sighed weakly. I wish I knew what that felt like. Naruto scooted over next to Mei, threw his jacket around her shoulders and nudged her cheekily in her side. I have been meaning to ask. How has a knockout like you not been taken off the market? Mei's sad smile turned to a frown. You know, Naruto, I don't really know. I have spent my whole adult life fighting for a cause I truly believed in. I always told myself that after the fighting was over that then I would find somebody to settle down with. I guess it just never happened. Naruto threw a comforting arm over Mei's shoulders and pulled her into his chest. Naruto was almost 6 feet tall, and he was 185 pounds, which meant that he was much bigger than Mei despite the age difference. That is a damn shame, Mei. You seem like a pretty amazing woman to me. Mei leaned into this boy that she barely knew, yet she felt completely comfortable in his arms. It didn't matter that there was a 12 to 13-year age gap, not at that moment anyway. Well, Mr. Senju, that is mighty forward of you. Naruto chuckled, but he didn't change the position. Nah, I am just telling the truth. I am not coming onto you. I have 2 beautiful women that own my heart, and that is more that I could ever ask for. Mei cursed in her head. Of course the good ones were already taken. She shook off the thought and asked her question, if you aren't coming onto me, then why are you comforting me, cuddling me and letting me wear your jacket? Her tone was sly and just a slight bit sexy. Naruto chuckled again before responding, because I wanted to show you how a woman of your caliber should be treated. Mei sighed, but it sounded more like a sexy pout, the good ones are already taken. Nah, if you want, I have someone you might like. He is strong, genuine and a man I have come to respect. Mei cocked her head cutely on his shoulder and her visible eye twinkled with hope. Oh. And who might that be? You ever heard of Might Guy? Mei pushed herself off of Naruto's shoulder and looked offended. You mean the guy that runs around in green spandex? Naruto laughed heartily at that, but he pulled Mei back into his side. Yeah, he used to. I fixed that. He has his eccentricities, but if you get to see the real Might Guy, then I promise you that you would be pleasantly surprised. Mei cocked an eyebrow at Naruto. Oh yeah. Why is that? Naruto tilted his head, brushed Mei's bangs back over her ear and looked her in her eyes. Because my abilities let me sense somebody's nature. I can feel their chakra, their emotions and I get a sense of a person. Let me tell you this, Might Guy might be eccentric, but he has one of the warmest chakras and is one of the most selfless people that I have ever met. I get a similar feeling from your chakra, that might just be the lava though. Naruto's earnest tone turned coy at the end. Mei slapped him playfully on the shoulder before she leaned back into him. Why does it feel like I can trust you? Why are you so mature for your age? Naruto shrugged. I guess you could say Kami put me in your life, Mei. As for your second question, that is a long story. You sure you want to hear it? Mei nodded and Naruto gave her the abbreviated story of his life. He told her how most of the Senju family was actually made of his alternate personalities born of childhood trauma. He told her the cover story about his seal and integrating his father's memories from a young age. He told her about Tamari and Ino and all of the other people that brought him back from the brink. Throughout his story, Mei cuddled deeper into him and felt a sense of companionship that she had never really felt before. Once his story was complete, Mei reciprocated and opened her true self up to Naruto. She told him things, insecurities, that she had never spoken aloud before. She told him about the struggle of the rebellion, of losing her family to Yagura's purge and the promise she made. She had made a promise to Kami, Yami and the Shinigami that she would give anything for her home to be rid of the violence. All they wanted was for her people to find happiness and peace. I tell you what, Mei. What if I told you I could set you up for a date on Friday night? Mei finally removed her head from its comfortable position on Naruto's shoulder. Well, I would ask who and why. Naruto smiled at her. Do you trust me? Mei nodded. For reasons unknown and unspoken, she trusted him. Yup. Then get your best dress, wax yourself and bring your game hun, because I am going to set you up. Naruto said coyly. Mei laughed. You just want to keep me in the friend zone. Naruto shrugged. If you aren't in the friend zone then I don't think I could continue resisting the temptation, Mei. You are a truly beautiful woman. Mei playfully slapped Naruto on the chest. Fine, Cupid, I will let you play matchmaker. What will I be doing for my mystery date? Naruto smiled mischievously. You let me worry about that. Naruto walked back up to the house with his arm around Mei's shoulder. They left their full wine glasses on the beach. They had no need for alcohol when their company provided everything each of them needed. For anyone that didn't know Naruto, it would seem extremely odd and presumptuous of him to be in such a position with Mei. Ao was cut off before he could begin his rant by a glare and a growl from Mei. Chojuro blushed furiously and Zabuza insinuated that Naruto had picked Mei up. It was only the Senju family that could tell that Naruto had gone and done something totally Naruto. The next day, Naruto flashed to the Hiraishin beacon in the Aburame compound. He offered a quick greeting to the Aburame clan before he hanged and dashed off to find Might Guy. He found Guy mid-run with Rock Lee, and he undid his henge. Guy had Lee continue the run while he sat down and had a talk with Naruto. The talk with Guy went well and the green beast of Konoha was hesitant to accept Naruto's idea, but he relented because he had grown to trust Naruto. After another heart-to-heart with Guy, Naruto got Guy to agree to the date. He informed Guy that he would pick him up at 5 p.m. on Friday, which Guy agreed to. Naruto said he would smooth things over with the Hokage, which a shadow clone had already taken care of. On Friday, Guy arrived at the Senju's house in Kiri at 5:05 p.m. Tsunade, Rias and Hikari were ready to dress Guy up to the nines and get him ready for his date. After Naruto shared his plan with the girls, they were all super excited to set the green beast up with the fiery Mizukage. It was amusing to watch Tsunade and Rias get so excited as they planned the date out and got everything set up. It was even more amusing to watch them throw out every suit that Guy had brought before they styled his hair, trimmed his eyebrows and offered him advice. Guy was honestly overwhelmed by everything going on. He had never been a cool guy, but he was starting to feel cool as he looked at himself in the mirror. His hair was cut into a high fade, the tops of his hair was styled with a medium hold gel that looked awesome and his kimono was pretty sweet. Guy was moved to tears when Naruto showed him the kimono he had bought just for Guy. The kimono was sleeveless, royal green with white edging and embossing, and it exposed a healthy amount of Guy's chest. It showed off his muscles in a manly way and it would definitely make Guy stand out in a crowd. Naruto grabbed Guy and walked with him to the Mizukage mansion. Guy must have thanked Naruto 100 times for caring so much about him, and Naruto let Guy get the flames of youth out of his system on the walk to pick up Mei. After a while, Naruto got Guy to drop his mask and told him that Mei was the kind of lady that appreciated a genuine man. Guy offered Naruto one of his exaggerated thumbs up before his face took on a more mature and serious look. A block away from the mansion, Naruto left Guy and went to get ready for his next role in the date. 30 minutes later, Naruto watched from his position on the boat as Guy and Mei walked down the pier. Naruto had rented a luxury yacht for the date and his clones were going to pilot the boat and serve the couple. Naruto hanged his clones into a typical butler so it wouldn't freak the two out. Plus, Rias, Hikari, Kurama, Yami and Yosuke really wanted to see what the green beast was like on a date, so they hopped into the seal. The date started shaky as both of them were still feeling each other out. It was a perfect night, and the yacht was steady as the two sat at a dining table of the bow of the boat. Naruto served the two dinner he had prepared and was always close enough to top off wine or take orders. Really, Naruto just wanted to be close enough to have a front row seat to the show. Oh my Kami. He is just too cute. Rias squealed from within the seal as Guy asked Naruto if there were any music available. Do you think the kid will be able to pull it off? We never really spent much time practicing the guitar. Kurama asked with the mind link closed. Yami scoffed, I don't doubt he will pull it off. That guy always pulls off the impossible. Hikari clapped excitedly as Naruto went into the yacht, unsealed his guitar and went back out onto the deck. Oh my. Big brother is so cool. I love it when he sings to me. Yosuke looked intrigued, when does he sing to you? Hikari put a finger to her lip in thought, well, when we are hanging out at night or in the garden. You know how he is super shy about his writing. Well, yeah, he is shy about his singing too. Kurama cocked his head, if he is shy, then why would he do this for them? Why not just say that they didn't have any music planned? Rias smiled wistfully, because that is the kind of guy he is. He would do anything for his friends. Shish, quiet, he is playing now, Hikari said in a harsh whisper. On the deck of the yacht, Naruto had broken out the guitar and started signing, Make You Feel My Love, by Garth Brooks. His voice and acoustic guitar rang out over the ocean and the deck of the ship and it wrapped Mei and Guy in its warm melody. After Guy broke out of his surprise, he offered a hand to Mei and asked her to dance. Naruto, and all those within the seal, watched on as the two danced like no one was watching. Naruto continued playing romantic songs from his repertoire and he set the mood. Within a couple minutes, the new couple had mellowed out and Naruto could tell that the real Guy was up to bat. Once the real Might Guy took over, then Naruto knew had nothing to worry about. Guy moved from a romantic dance to a seat on the prow of the ship on cushions and blankets. Naruto gleamed bits and pieces of the conversation and could tell that things were going well. He continued to strum the guitar for background ambiance and his natural senjutsu chakra set the mood and calmed everything down quite a bit. As the ship settled back in port, Naruto watched Guy offer his hand to help Mei dismount and smiled at the level of intimacy he saw. He decided to let Guy and Mei have their privacy, to the protest of the altars within the seal. That night, Guy did not return to the Senju house, which prompted everyone to speculate on what was happening. The prevailing theory Mei was a man-eater, and Guy wouldn't be coming home anytime soon. As Naruto was cooking breakfast for the Senju family and the training trip participants, a jubilant might guy with a big-ass goofy grin entered the kitchen. Guy beelined for Naruto and gave him a mighty pat on the back, which dispelled the Naruto clone that was cooking breakfast for the family. Naruto got the memories while in the shower and laughed as the image of the goofy grin entered his mind. He finished his morning ritual and joined the ribbing of Guy. Seiken lost. After the fun of hooking Mei up, everybody noticed the glow that surrounded Mei Terumi. There were many rumors spread about the new, Chiri Mizukage, and funny enough, some of them were on the mark. Some rumors said that Mei found a secret treasure in Yagura's office. Some said that Mei finally found Yagura and was secretly torturing him. Others said that Mei finally had a boyfriend, which was more on the mark. After the first date, Naruto flashed Guy to and from Kiri on weekends, which Itachi labeled as a diplomatic mission to Kiri. As things settled down and most of the jobs for Naruto were completed, Naruto finally decided to settle down and perform a concerted search for Seiken and Utakata. Naruto had left Hirishin beacons at many of the job sites and he decided to use Sage Mode to sense for the missing Jinchuuriki. Naruto spent a whole week searching the many islands of Kiri with no luck, so he decided to talk to the Kunoichi village of Nashiko, which was on the southern border of Kiri. After an incident and talk with Nashiko, Kurama finally told Naruto that Seiken was gone, and they should give up on the search. With reluctance, Naruto flashed back to his temporary home in Kiri. "Mama, I'm home," Naruto called out. "On the porch, kiddo," Tsunade called back. Naruto walked back onto the porch and sat down next to Tsunade, grumbling about stupid grandfathers and stupid promises. This earned a cocked eyebrow from Tsunade. Jiraiya had disappeared for spy business a month ago, so Tsunade didn't know why Naruto was cursing Jiraiya. Tsunade poured a saucer for Naruto and had him sit down next to her. "What's got you hot and bothered, kiddo?" After grumbling under his breath, Naruto told the story. Flashback. One day ago. Naruto had searched most of the islands of Kiri and was at a loss for what to do next. His Sage Mode let him sense 15 or so miles when he was concentrating, and he had methodically searched most of the land of water. It was at that point that he remembered a funny memory from his past life, and he set off towards the south. Between Kurama's chakra and Sage Mode, Naruto could move at nearly 150 miles per hour, even on top of the ocean water. He blurred south in the direction of his new supposed target. "Alright, kid, you gotta calm down. After channeling my chakra for half an hour your system is stressed," Kurama said through the mental link. Naruto huffed and sat in a meditative position as he arrived near his target destination. "So, can you sense them, Q?" Kurama focused for a minute before responding. "Nashiko is 10 miles west-southwest. Be careful, kid, those crazy ladies almost forced you to stay in their village last time around." Naruto chuckled. "Yeah, Jiraiya never gave me a warning. Plus, I am far stronger this time around and I am not clueless when it comes to dealing with women." Kurama sniggered. "Yeah, last go around I really thought you were going to take that Shizuka girl up on the offer. Your bleeding heart got in the way though." Naruto scoffed playfully. "Hey look, even back then I didn't want to be somebody's second best. Plus, I still had the Sakura blinders on. Not to mention, if I stayed there, it is likely that the whole village would have been decimated by the Akatsuki." Yeah, keep making the excuses. You ready to get going yet? You are my internal monitor, you tell me." Naruto shot back. Kurama grumbled and growled a bit. "Get off your lazy ass. I want to see Tsunade soon." As Naruto began his run, he thought back, "Are you really serious about her, Q? I love you both and it would make me happy, but I would still come into the seal and lay a beatdown if you hurt her." Kurama chuckled. "Relax, Ruto. It surprises me too, and it is probably because you have rubbed off on me over the years." Kurama's playful tone suddenly turned contemplative and serious. "I think I love your mama, Kit. I am just worried she doesn't feel the same." As the wind flew through Naruto's hair, he asked, "Why?" Naruto had seen how Tsunade interacted and how she had grown closer to Kurama. "Because I am a Biju, a demon, a monster," Kurama said just over a whisper. Naruto stopped suddenly as his feet impacted the ground and he skid for a couple meters. His eyes furrowed and his tone grew serious. He summoned Kurama into a shadow clone and as soon as Kurama formed, he decked him hard in the chin. What the hell, Kit? Kurama shouted. I just had to knock the bitch out of you. You are Kurama, the Kyuubi no Kitsune, Kami's chosen Biju, the strongest of the tailed beasts, but most importantly, you are my friend and my family. I will not tolerate you berating yourself like that. Kurama remained quiet in the mindscape and struggled to stop the tear that was forming on his fox snout. Look, Q, it's not like I don't understand why you are nervous, however, you owe her the chance to say no. Naruto finished the run to Nashiko as Kurama mulled over his words. It certainly was a lot to think about. Naruto slowed down his run and turned it into a casual walk as he approached the gates of Nashiko. He knew that this was a village that took its security seriously, especially when it came to men. As Naruto was 100 meters from the gates, he was suddenly surrounded by 10 kunoichi. He chuckled internally and roused Kurama from his contemplation as he recognized one of the kunoichi. Halt! State your name and business with Nashiko. A young, beautiful, raven-haired teenage girl shouted. Naruto held up his hands in a disarming gesture and smiled brilliantly at the girl. His grin widened when he noticed she was blushing a bit. I am Naruto Senju Uzumaki. I have come to Nashiko village to see if you have any information concerning the whereabouts of Utakata of Kiri. The girl looked around to her teammates before responding, well, Naruto Senju, before we give you any information, it is time for you to pay up on old debts. Naruto groaned as Kurama laughed wildly inside the mindscape. And what, pray tell, do I owe to you or Nashiko? You will fight me, the teenage girl said as she stepped forward. Fuck, I knew this was a stupid idea. Naruto groused internally, but he only got laughter in response. On the outside, Naruto facepalmed, why should I fight you? Can't you just tell me what you know, and I will pay you well for the information? Shizuka cocked an eyebrow, you don't know. Naruto shook his head in the negative, despite knowing what she was probably talking about. Very well, you are the grandson of Jiraiya the Toad Sannin. He made a promise to my mother in return for not becoming her spouse after he bested her in combat. You were promised to me, but if I am to take you as a husband, then you will need to best me in combat. Naruto sighed wearily, it was exactly what he thought. And if I refuse to fight you? The kunoichi formed a perimeter around Shizuka, basically saying that wasn't an option. Look, princess, if you have read a bingo book recently, you would realize that even the 10 of you couldn't stop me. I highly advise that you just tell me what you know. Shizuka looked highly offended before she took out Twin Tanto and dashed toward Naruto. As Kurama roared in laughter, Naruto unsealed, Benihime, and Dragon's Roar, and answered Shizuka sword for sword. He looked bored as he fought a defensive battle and parried, dodged or countered her blows. After 2 minutes, Shizuka got frustrated and started channeling wind chakra into her blades. It was clear that Shizuka was a skilled kunoichi, much like her remembered last time around. It was also clear to Naruto that he was going to have to end this fight before it got out of hand. As he encased his blades in wind chakra, he fell into the stance of twin dancing dragon tails, which was the less lethal version of the twin rampaging dragon tails. Now, as Naruto answered the swords blow for blow, he was winning out with each clash of swords. His wind chakra was bigger and far more potent than what Shizuka could bring to the table, and it was her tantos that were paying the price. In addition, both of Naruto's swords were of a much higher caliber than Shizuka's own. Thus, it took less than 2 minutes for Naruto to lash out with a spinning slash that was able to sever both tanto blades down the middle. Shizuka shrieked in fear and jumped back as Benihime ripped through her blades. Shizuka scowled before she weaved through the hand seals for her signature jutsu. Naruto had seen the jutsu before, but he couldn't remember exactly what it did. Deciding that he would let her wear herself out, Naruto let her finish her hand signs and heard her call out, Natashiko-style Deep Crimson Dance performance. After she said this, she launched a series of wind blades at Naruto, who easily countered the wind blade with a wood wall. Despite Shizuka's shock as seeing a wood wall blocking her jutsu, she weaved through some more hand signs and called out, Dance performance, second step. This time she moved in closed with a taijutsu style that reminded Naruto of the whirling tide taijutsu style that he had mastered. It was clear that the style imitated dance since it was graceful and fluid with almost no wasted movement. It was made more deadly as Shizuka had encased her arms in wind chakra that looked like a translucent sword. Naruto sighed, maybe he should have ended this sooner. He couldn't use his blades on her anymore and he had no desire to cripple or kill her. He resealed the blades into the seals on his wrists and came up with a new plan. He encased himself in a wooden dome to halt Shizuka onslaught, which was a move that truly perplexed the Nashiko kunoichi and all of the other surrounding kunoichi. Shizuka attempted to slash the wood apart but was only able to make small cuts on the tough wooden dome. Suddenly, the dome fell and Shizuka saw Naruto launch some earthen bullets out of his mouth at her. She countered this with the final step to her technique and she spun rapidly before calling out, "Violent whirlwind." She spit a wind funnel at Naruto and the incoming rocks that was able to destroy the rocks and sent Naruto flying backwards. Before Shizuka could run toward the downed Naruto and end the fight, two hands grabbed her ankles and pulled her under the ground. If it were only earth holding her, Shizuka might have been able to escape this jutsu, however, it wasn't just earth. Shizuka felt wooden vines crawl up her legs as they were submerged underground and within a second the wooden vines had crawled over her arms and prevented her from forming hand seals. Shizuka was half submerged in the dirt with her arms completely immobilized in the newly emerged wooden construct. Naruto rose out of the ground in front of Shizuka. "All right, princess, can we be done now? I really don't like hitting beautiful women and I didn't ask for this fight." Shizuka glared at him defiantly. "How didn't you perish to my wind attack?" Naruto laughed. "That was a wood clone, princess. Don't really need to say much more. You are strong, especially for your age, but I am far, far stronger." Shizuka didn't know whether to be pleased or offended. She had given up on love since the death of Sagiri, the merchant boy she had fallen in love with. Of course, she wasn't allowed to be with him because she was from the royal branch of Nashiko and she could only marry a man that bested her in single combat. After Sagiri's death, she had given up on love and thrown herself into fulfilling her duties to Nashiko. That left her with this: her new husband was now standing over her and she now was bound by duty to submit to him. Shizuka's glare dropped, and her eyes softened. "Very well, husband. I admit defeat and submit to you." Naruto waved his hands in front of him animatedly. No, I didn't agree to your right of conquest, and I certainly don't wish to force you into marriage." No. Categorically, no. Shizuka and the women surrounding Naruto looked offended and Shizuka's pouty face made Naruto laugh. Especially since she was still immobilized and sunk halfway into the earth. Before they could begin shouting at him, a rumbling was felt, and everyone saw a robot jump onto the scene. The robot extended a giant arm for the immobilized Shizuka, and the arm was severed before it even came close to Shizuka. Naruto groaned internally, "Not this creep again. You know, Kit, since you aren't going to marry the girl, you may as well do her the favor of killing this creep." Kurama snickered out. "Gah." Naruto thought back pitifully, "Why do I always have to be the good guy?" Before the creepy guy named Kokuyo could complete his monologue, a giant tree ripped apart his robot. The robot exploded, but instead of Kokuyo flying away, he was held in place by one of the tree branches. The pitiful man looked burnt and covered in dust before he coughed out a cloud of dust. Before Kokuyo could recompose himself, he was held upside down by his ankle. "All right, Mr. Creepy and Desperate, why did you interrupt my fight with the Princess of Nashiko?" Naruto asked seriously while flexing some killing intent. As Kokuyo stuttered out a response, Shizuka realized that the man in front of her was a true warrior. She started moistening the earth from her loins and she felt hot all over as she was immobilized by his wood. "Oh Kami. I have never willingly submitted to a man before, but seeing him defend me," Shizuka thought. Despite being humiliated, Shizuka realized that this guy might actually be the perfect mate, even if he seems reluctant. He will have no choice but to honor his grandfather's promise. "All right, Creeper, you have two options. 1. You fight me for the right to Shizuka's hand and die. I don't recommend that one. 2. You swear to me here and now that you will never step foot within 10 miles of Nashiko village. If you break your word to me, I will once again promise you death. If neither of those suit your fancy, I will kill you here and now to rid the world of a perverted creep." Naruto growled out, truly agitated at the situation. Please don't kill me." Kokuyo shrieked as urine saturated the front of his robes and started dripping off of his chin. "Choose." Naruto responded firmly with a growl in his voice. TT2, IIIC choose option T2. The man cried while weeping. Naruto looked to Shizuka before laughing, forgetting that she was still submerged in the ground. He stomped a foot on the ground and released her from her bindings. Does that sound good to you, princess? Shizuka brushed the dirt off of her combat uniform and smiled brilliantly at Naruto. Yes, beloved, that sounds fine. Naruto groaned and Kurama was now struggling to breathe after such sustained rolling on the ground, clutching sides, type laughter. Gah, whatever. Look, Kokuyo, I spare you today. Go back to Suna and ask Kankuro to join the puppeteering corps. He is running it since Granny Chio died. Tell him Naruto Senju sent you and you should get off with a slap on the wrist for deserting Suna. While suspended upside down and dribbling urine, Kokuyo tried bowing, which made for a truly pathetic sight. Naruto formed the snake seal and dropped the pitiful man to the ground. Kami, I hope Kankuro doesn't turn out as pitiful as this guy, Naruto thought. Thank you, Lord Senju. Kokuyo said bowing before sprinting away from Nashiko village. Naruto turned to Shizuka, now, except he was interrupted by the arrival of the royal guard and a woman clearly dressed as the queen of Nashiko. The women soaked in the situation before his eyes fell on Naruto. And who might you be, young man? The regal woman asked. Before Naruto could respond, Shizuka spoke up and bowed to her mother. Mother, this is Naruto Senju, and he is now my beloved. Naruto looked incredulously between Shizuka and the queen of Nashiko. He couldn't even believe what was happening to him. Before he could vehemently deny the statement, the queen clapped her hands together and had a marvelous smile on her face. How marvelous. It is high time you found yourself a husband. And the student of that man as well. It is fated. The queen exclaimed. You must join us for a feast of celebration, Naruto Senju. Kurama's laughter was now dragging past the 10-minute mark and the Biju could no longer speak words because his sides made of pure chakra were cramping from laughing so much. This was so much better than the last time around. It didn't help that Kurama had direct access to his pitiful thoughts, which only made the legendary Kitsune laugh that much harder. Naruto bowed. Queen of Nashiko, I believe there has been some misunderstanding. Naruto was cut off by the queen. Tut, that will not do. You may call me mother now that you are engaged to my only daughter. Are these women fucking nuts? Naruto thought, sending Kurama into another giggle fit. Oh, fuck it. I am just going to get some free food and figure out if they have seen Utakata. Naruto resigned himself to his fate. There were worse things in the world than being surrounded by beautiful, Amazonian warrior women for a night. Tamari is either going to kill me or die laughing, Naruto thought. Naruto resigned himself into accompanying Shizune into Nashiko village where he drew hungry looks and thirsty stares from the mostly female population. The few males in the village looked pitiful. Naruto knew that males held a much lower social standing in Nashiko, but Naruto thought that they would have at least been treated well. Nope, it appears that they were only kept around so that they could provide baby batter. Yet another thought drove Kurama closer to madness as his incessant laughter could no longer be stopped. As Naruto sat down at the table next to Shizuka and the queen of Nashiko, who later introduced herself as Marika, he started drooling at the assortment of food. They at least owed him a good meal before he broke their hearts. Thus, for nearly half an hour Naruto gorged himself on the tasty food made by the women of Nashiko village. That was until Kurama finally recovered from his fit of laughter and threw out a warning through the mental link. Oi, Kit, that food is laced with drugs and aphrodisiacs. Naruto's hazy mind processed the words, but he couldn't fight through the haze of the drugs. Little did Naruto know that this was how the women of Nashiko consummated their marriages and turned their husbands into subservient beings. Even a man of noble blood like Naruto couldn't dodge out of the responsibility of a child, or at the very least the deflowering of a princess. No wonder these women were cursed to only have female children. Kurama focused now, knowing that he needed to clear the drugs out of Naruto's system. For the first time in his new life, Kurama forced chakra into Naruto through the seal. The seal was open and Kurama was synchronized with Naruto, so it wasn't that hard, but it may have created some problems for his partner in the outside world. Marika was watching Naruto devour the food. She was honestly impressed that he was still awake. She organized the drugging to make sure that the promise would be honored this time around. She had missed out on Minato Namikaze, and she had heard about this boy. Nashiko needed somebody like him, and he would produce strong warriors for the village. After he passed out, she would have Shizuka consummate the marriage and take the spilt seed to create more Amazonian warriors. Shizuka was watching Naruto in an amused fashion. The fierce warrior was rather funny, and it appeared that he had a gluttonous side to him. She had her chin posted up on her hand as she watched him devour yet another plate of turkey and mashed potatoes. He was a truly handsome man, tall, blonde and quite unique with those whisker marks. The way he acted on the battlefield showed that he was a merciful warrior and a compassionate man, unlike the rest of the scum that came to the village in search of a wife. The two women, and every other Nashiko in the dining hall, were suddenly stunned when a fierce aura encased Naruto in a red chakra cloak. Three tails emerged from the cloak and the boy's eyes turned red with a black slit. After a moment, the boy's eyes cleared, and he began looking around at the women in the dining hall. "You know," he said in a husky voice that was laced with a growl. "I was going to be nice and let you down easy. At least I was until you decided to drug me." Naruto's eyes locked onto the queen. Shizuka stood up and tried to place a hand on his shoulder, but she couldn't reach through the chakra cloak. "Naruto, what are you talking about?" Shizuka exclaimed. Naruto's head turned to her. He looked her in the eye before he looked at the hand attempting to touch him. "Ask your mother. I am lucky that the Kyuubi is a friend of mine, otherwise the drugs would have worked." "Nonsense." The queen shouted, "You were promised to my daughter. You will honor the promise of your grandfather and become the future king of Nashiko." Naruto barked out a laugh. "Oh, please, please get a grip, Lady Marika. Maybe if you didn't treat men like shit then you would have more men in the village. Maybe if you didn't try to drug me, I would have been in a more amenable mood. Maybe, if you were straight up with me then I would have at least heard you out." "Mother, what is he talking about?" Shizuka was now looking pleadingly at her mother. "You are too young and naive to understand, Shizuka," the queen said while turning her head away from her daughter and glaring at Naruto. "You are bound to my daughter by a pact made between me and Jiraiya the Toad Sannin. In addition, you bested my daughter after the right of conquest was given. You will remain here in Nashiko and make my daughter happy as she ascends the throne." Naruto barked out a laugh that unsettled the women in the dining hall. His laughter abruptly subsided and Naruto grabbed Shizuka and disappeared in a red flash, which left the women in the dining hall stunned. The queen of Nashiko threw a fit and immediately dispatched squads of Nashikan women out to look for Naruto and Shizuka. 10 miles away, where Naruto had rested earlier, Naruto and Shizuka appeared in a red flash. Shizuka was confused and disillusioned with her mother and Naruto had let Kurama's cloak fall off. "Thanks, partner." Naruto thought through the mind link before he turned to Shizuka. "Look, Shizuka, you are a beautiful woman and a strong kunoichi. Any man would be lucky to have you, but your village is crazy. I am already betrothed to 2 women that each own a half of my heart and I am not on the market." Shizuka had sunk to her knees in confusion, despair and a slight bit of nausea from the impromptu Hiraishin jump. She looked up through teary eyes at Naruto. "If any man would be lucky to have me, then why do you not wish to have me? I can tell that you are a decent man and that you would make an amazing husband." Naruto shrugged. "As I said, I already have my 2 queens. I don't need any more than that." Shizuka started sobbing. "Then what am I supposed to do?" Naruto picked the sobbing kunoichi up and pulled her into a hug. "Why don't you go on a training trip? Why don't you enjoy life and all of the pain, laughter, despair and joy that comes along with it? If you do that, then a woman such as you will find a great guy in no time." "Why you really think so?" Shizuka said through sobs. Naruto wiped her tears. "I know so. If you need some recommendations, I could hook you up with one of my friends. I would hold off on introducing him to your mom though." Naruto finished with a wry chuckle. Shizuka shook her head and surprised Naruto with a tender kiss to his lips. Naruto didn't reciprocate the brief kiss, but he was completely surprised by it. "I'm sorry. I just wanted to give my first kiss to a man that actually deserved it. I will travel and explore the world. When I am ready for love, I will find you and you can introduce me to these friends you speak of." Naruto recovered and smiled at Shizuka. "Sure thing, princess. Your village is 10 miles that away. Now, I am off. Stay safe until we can see each other again." Naruto pointed toward Nashiko before disappearing in a flash of green light. End of flashback. Tsunade was howling in laughter and the 3 sake bottles she had drank during the story clattered to the deck as she accidentally knocked them over. Naruto wore a pitiful and woeful look on his face, but he decided to let his mama get it out of his system. Kurama was sitting cuddled up next to Tsunade laughing just as hard as Tsunade was. Brat. Kami, brat. Tsunade doubled over in laughter again. So let me get this straight. You went out searching for a Biju and you were nearly pulled into a village of sex-crazed, man-hating women. Oh, my Kami, brat, that is too good. Naruto pouted petulantly, it's not my fault, mama. It is all Jiraiya's fault. Tsunade's laugh halted abruptly, and she looked between Naruto and Kurama, explained Bubba. Kurama barked out a laugh. The old toad beat the queen of Nashiko in a fight. According to Nashiko, if a woman is bested in combat, then that man is to become her husband. Jiraiya skirted out of that by promising that his next student would take his place. Thus, when the brat showed up in Nashiko, and they recognized him from the bingo book, then the princess decided to fight because she believed she was already promised to Naruto. Tsunade growled, but Naruto added on, yeah, and then the queen drugged me. If Kurama wasn't there, then I would have become an involuntary sperm donor. Tsunade slammed her fists together and sent a small shockwave across the backyard. Maybe I should go pay a visit to Nashiko. Naruto put a calming hand on Tsunade's shoulder, they ain't worth it, mama. But if those crazy women show up again, I will need you to send them packing. Sure thing, bud. I hope they try something. Tsunade said while wringing her hands together in a menacing fashion. Return to Wave. The training group left Kirigakure after 6 months in the beautiful mist-covered country. Mei pouted petulantly that without Naruto there she wouldn't be able to have more dates with Guy. The training group laughed at that, and Tsunade said that Mei should make him Konoha's ambassador to Wave, then she could see him regularly. That cheered the sexy, fiery redhead up and she waved goodbye to the group of shinobi. Zabuza could be seen fighting back tears as Haku hugged him. Passionately. It was finally time for Zabuza to give Haku up and Naruto was going to take her to Wave and let her settle down with Himawari. The way Naruto saw it, this would let her bond with family, and she would be a strong defender of Wave when the Senju family was absent. Back to the crying demon, Zabuza felt like he was losing the part of himself that remained human, but on the other foot he felt like this was Haku's chance to gain independence and decide what she wants in life. Mei was truly grateful for Naruto and the Senju family. In 6 months, Naruto had helped most of Kiri recover. Sure, it was strange for Kiri to have a bunch of wood houses when most of the houses were made of brick or some other form of stone. That being said, the houses Naruto made were selling like hotcakes since everyone wanted to live in a house built by the Senju prodigy. In addition, Mei felt more secure than ever in her home country. The protective seals and barriers Naruto installed were a great relief to a country that was torn apart by war for over a decade. The humidity control seal was also useful in the storage of foods and other dry goods that would be damaged by the moisture. In addition, Naruto gave me a sampling of braziers and thongs with the pain relief and anti-rape seals on them. In summary, Mei Terumi loved the Senju boy and the people of Kiri tended to agree with her. You take care of my girl, brat, or I will find a way to end you. Zabuza growled. Naruto waved him off. Hi. I get it, Zabuza. You have my word that Haku will be happy, healthy and cared for. She isn't my prisoner, she isn't my servant, and she isn't bound to me. I only ask that she meet her aunt and give Wave a chance. It would be fine, Zabuza. Haku said in a soft reassurance. Zabuza's growl sounded wet, and his eyes were misty as he gave Haku one last hug goodbye. The influential people from Kiri watched on in amazement as Naruto flashed into his Kurama Sage Mode KSM for short and flashed the group away. Naruto had grown strong enough to enter KSM for short bursts and he used that ability to perform his long-distance Hiraishin jump with the training group. This group travel left everyone seriously disoriented, and they wouldn't agree to it if it didn't save them over a week of travel. Before the disorientation could be shaken off, Naruto was tackled to the ground by 2 blonde blurs. He looked at the radiant and smiling faces of Ino and Temari, both of whom were looking more beautiful than ever to Naruto. 6 months apart wasn't fun even when they could communicate every night. Tsunade had forbidden him from traveling back, saying that they were on the trip to train and help people, not have a vacation. After Mama put her foot down, the Trouble ceased their protests and accepted Tsunade's decision. Therefore, the three blondes were starved of each other's affections, and they refused to let each other go. After a while, the three lovers broke their hug and Naruto took a good look at the loves of his life. Temari was as beautiful as ever and Naruto noticed a couple unique streaks of aqua blue flowing through her blonde hair. It was unique, sensual and exotic for Naruto to see. Temari had matured a little bit, with her face slimming out a little bit and her teenage beauty seemed to be more mature and womanly. As always, Naruto thanked Kami for this blonde bombshell. A few seconds later, Naruto looked over to Ino and she looked radiant, as if the pregnancy was making her glow. That's right. The baby. Naruto offered Ino a quick kiss before he paid homage to the beautiful baby bump. Ino blushed and Temari watched on with a graceful smile on her face as Naruto fawned over Ino and asked all the questions he had written to the girls over the past few months. After praising the baby bump and kissing it a couple times, Naruto soaked in the beautiful blonde goddess in front of him. Ino had matured a little, with her face becoming more angular, which made her girly beauty seem more graceful, mature and elegant. She had grown a couple inches taller, and she was wearing a purple maternity dress that let her long, lustrous legs enjoy the cool sea breeze. Kami, you are the best for giving me these two. Thank you. Naruto offered a quick prayer of gratitude to the goddess that had given him a second chance. How long do we have until you are due? Naruto asked excitedly. Ino sighed. Ruto, the answer is the same as yesterday when you asked by scroll. It is due in 3 weeks. Temari chuckled, torn between jealousy and adoration of the man that would do anything to protect his family. Ruto, relax, your baby boy will be here soon enough. Why don't we go inside and get reacquainted with one another? She finished in a sultry tone and wiggle of the eyebrows. Ino pouted, no fair. Temari giggled and grabbed Ino's hand. Hey girl, just cause you're pregnant doesn't mean you can have fun. Own man has a tongue and lips girlfriend. Ino smiled at that. Maybe this would be fun. Lead the way, Mari. Gimme a sec. I have to let the loony bin out. Naruto said sarcastically as 5 wood clones sprouted out of his back. Rias gave a quick hug and kiss to each girl before darting off and looking for Anko and Kushina. Hikari squealed excitedly and hugged both girls enthusiastically before waving goodbye. Yosuke offered his heartfelt gratitude and consideration to each of the girls before running off to find Himawari and Suya. Haku followed Yosuke because she wanted to meet Himawari and find her place in Wave. Yami nodded to the 2 girls before skulking off somewhere, which made the group chuckle. Kurama offered a hug and a chakra blessing to Ino and her child. It was a kitsune thing and it seemed to help and invigorate Ino. Gaara and Hinata stayed behind for a minute to say hello to their friends and family. Gaara paid special attention to Ino, who he already considered a sister. It was touching when everyone saw Gaara's face soften as he cradled Ino's belly tentatively. The couple offered a graceful goodbye before they tucked into some nook of the Senju villa to enjoy some alone time. The 3 blondes remained locked in Naruto's bedroom for the rest of the day. Ino discovered the kinky joys of pregnant sex and the complications it can cause. Temari relished in the stamina and prowess of her man while Ino participated intermittently. The night found the trio tangled in a loving mess on Naruto's bed. They each wore contented grins as they rested peacefully in each other's arms. 3 weeks later, birthday. For the past week, as Ino's due date approached, many Konohans were present in Wave Country once again. Inoichi and Lina had been in Wave for almost 2 weeks now and they were, mother henning, over Ino. Inoichi's anger at Naruto had abated and now he was excited for his grandson and concerned for his daughter. Pregnancy at a young age always carried risks, but Inoichi found comfort in the presence of 2 of the best medics in the elemental nations. Itachi also dispatched squads 9, 10 and a couple ambush squads for security to Wave. In his stead, he allowed his mother, Makoto, and Shisui to go to Wave for added security as well. Itachi knew that this was a high-risk pregnancy, and not just because Ino was young. He had kept everything under wraps, but if Iwa were to hear about Naruto having a child, then Wave could become a war zone. He had also instructed Inoichi and Lina to keep it quiet as well for the same reason and they both readily complied with that order. Hiyashi. Hanabi and Neji arrived in Wave and were enjoying a week-long vacation while helping out the Senju family wherever they could. They were each informed about the pregnancy and given a protection mission during their time on the island. Hiyashi wanted to spend time with Hinata, and he felt like he owed the Senju family greatly. Therefore, he was more than willing to patrol Wave Country with Neji and Hinata. The Byakugan was an exceptional tool when it came to scouting and defending a fixed location. The ever-excitable Squad 9 was helping Wave's SDF forces with patrols. They weren't exactly the stealthiest, so they pulled security at the bridge and ports. They would also be assigned to hospital security during the birth and subsequent time in the hospital. There were strict lockdown plans, multiple barrier defenses and screening seals set up at the hospital. They would be screening each patient entering and visitors would be denied for a couple days. Team 10, mainly Shikamaru, Asuma and Choji, were also assigned to hospital security. Shikamaru began running worst-case scenarios, infiltration routes, and he found gaps in the security to plug up. He took the duty super seriously and banished his laziness until the baby was safe in the Senju villa. Ino was one of his closest childhood friends and Naruto was one of his best friends, despite being a troublesome bastard that made him work out every day. The love of his friends was the only motivation that Shikamaru needed to put his best foot forward. Shisui was the Anbu commander, despite only Itachi and the Anbu captains being aware of that. He was Itachi's right hand and most trusted person in Konoha. He was also one of 2 remaining Uchihas that knew that Naruto was part of the neighborhood watch. He, Fugaku and Makoto were surprised when Naruto asked them to sign a blood contract and found out that he was the Konoha agent for the organization. They all felt a debt of gratitude to him and Shisui wanted to pay his debt forward. Shisui brought Team RO and Team Haka. Team RO had the highest overall success rate and Team Haka specialized in asset and fixed position defense. Shisui also felt indebted to Naruto, and he felt doubly so because of his shameful village's treatment of the Senju heir. Shisui wasn't naive, he knew exactly what would have happened if Naruto didn't intervene and stop the Iwa and Sound armies. Furthermore, Shisui could still close his eyes and watch the miracle Naruto performed due to his photographic memory with the Sharingan. All in all, Shisui was more than happy to help Naruto and his family. Shino didn't know how to feel about Naruto. Of course, he loved the guy, and he was ever grateful to him. However, after Hinata joined the training trip, he was made to be the team leader of Team 7 with Kiba and Sakura. Thus, he was incredibly fed up with Team 7 and Kakashi's chronic lateness. He managed to whittle down Kakashi's lateness by threatening his Ika series with his Kikaichu bugs, but that was a small concession considering he still had to put up with the Banshee and Dog Boy. Now, Shino was in Wave with his father and mother, who insisted on coming along to support Naruto. Shino knew the Aburame could be trusted, and he confided in them about Naruto's firstborn son. He also brought Apita, who was now 4 feet tall with a humanoid body. Apita insisted on spending time with the man who named her, and she wanted to do her part in helping protect the man she called, at least in her mind, Master. Thus, the main island of Wave Country was bustling with life, activity and Konoha shinobi. Naruto was glad to be surrounded by his friends, family and those he actually respected from Konoha. He felt like he could take on the world with these people by his side. And he was just getting settled into bed with Ino and Tamari. "How are you feeling, my love?" Naruto asked the sleepy Ino. Ino replied in a sleepy, yet snide, mutter, "The same as I was 5 minutes ago, Ruto. I swear, I am going to ask Kurenai to put you in a genjutsu to make you feel what we women go through." Oh, I would love to see that. Tamari said excitedly as she rose over Ino and gave her a kiss goodnight. Naruto chuckled sheepishly as his 2 girls snuggled into him. "Yeah, I don't know about that one." Ino playfully slapped his chest. "Baka, it would be the least you could do to show how much you love me." Naruto's chuckling turned into nervous laughter. "Ah, come on, Ino, you wouldn't do that to me, would you?" Was Ino's muttered reply. Unknown location, Iowa Strike Team. "Is everyone ready?" "Yes, Captain, we are ready." "How are we getting into Wave?" replied the second in command. Leader Sama hypnotized the boat captain. "We will be smuggled into Wave. Our intelligence said that the girl should be having the baby any day now." The captain answered. "So, what if she hasn't had the baby yet?" A junior golem asked. Then we wait until she has. Wave is a country of civilians with only minor forces. We will lay low, wait until the Senju demon goes home and then we will snatch and grab the baby. The captain answered confidently. Are we sure this information is good? Sounds a bit too easy. The lieutenant asked. This is coming from the top. That new organization always provides good intel. Now, no more stupid questions. It is time to move out. Wave Country, Senju Villa 430 AM. Naruto. Ino screamed. Naruto was instantly alert and on guard. Yes, Ino, what is it? He said as he rose out of bed. Ino calmed down a bit and shot an apologetic look at Temari. My water broke. Go get Tsunade. Naruto gave a gleeful shout before quickly kissing Ino on the lips and running to get Tsunade. As he left the room, he saw Shisui standing guard outside the door. He let them know what was going on and Shisui went to round up the troops. It was go time. Naruto ran to Tsunade's room, knocked quickly on the door and didn't wait for the go-ahead to come in. Thus, Naruto got his first-person view of Tsunade's glorious rack as she rose out from the cover of her bedsheets while rubbing her eyes wearily. Kurama didn't even stir next to her until he heard Naruto's next words. Mama, her water broke. It is go time. Naruto shouted excitedly, not even taking a moment to appreciate the two beautiful works of Kami. Okay, brat, we will be out in a minute. Get her ready to go and we will go to the hospital in 10 minutes. Tsunade answered in an alert tone. Congrats, Kit, Kurama offered with a cheeky grin. 30 minutes later, the Senju family was escorted into their hospital room and the hospital was set on high alert. At 5 a.m., teams 9, 10, Ro and Haka were all on guard and performing their perimeter sweeps. Kaisa stopped by quickly to congratulate Naruto and tell him that all of his people were ready to help him. Naruto offered his gratitude and ushered him out of the door as Tsunade and Shizune took control of the birthing room. Unfortunately for Naruto, they ushered him out as well until Ino's labor was in progress. Ino said that she wanted Naruto there for the labor. Naruto went into the waiting room and saw Hiyashi, Makoto, Shisui, Hanabi and Shino sitting there waiting. His alters and their significant others hadn't shown up yet, but they would be there soon. He went through the round of greetings and hugs, and he left a clone with them. Naruto was too excited to sit still, and he needed to do something proactive otherwise he would drive himself insane. Naruto decided that a quick round of meditation would mellow him out and prepare him for the stresses of the labor to come. Naruto went to the roof of the Senju Memorial Hospital and sat in a lotus position on the rooftop garden. Shino had accompanied him and Apita was hovering over the garden soaking in the peaceful presence of Naruto's Senjutsu chakra. Naruto played and synced with the natural energy before he slipped into Sage mode. Naruto took it to stage 2 since he wanted to feel out Wave and ensure that nobody had gotten past their security. Naruto's consciousness spread around the island and his chakra resonated with each member of the island. The truly miraculous thing about Naruto's Sage mode was that the whole island danced with life and seemed more vibrant. The locals instantly recognized it as Naruto's presence and he could feel their auras greeting the tender sensation of his chakra. Naruto loved this feeling in Wave because there was no fear, no rejection, no hostile intent. Wait, why was there hostile intent? Naruto's eyes snapped open through his sage markings and Shino instantly rose from his leaned position on the wall. What is it, Ruto? Shino asked. Shino, go get Shisui and York, now. I am going to keep track of their presence. Naruto's tone was firm and commanding. Shisui darted off and Apita flew in front of Naruto. Master, how can I be of service? Naruto took in the humanoid bee and smiled gracefully at her. Ah, Apita, it has been too long. If you would go check the docks, warehouse 48. Just do a flyby and do not engage. I sense 12 people that don't belong and I don't want this day to be marred by death and destruction. Yes, master. Apita replied gleefully before she flew off towards the docks. A couple minutes later, Shisui, York, Hiyashi and Makoto appeared on the roof. Since Shisui was the ranking officer, he asked the question. What is it, Naruto? Naruto took a deep breath and brought his senses back into his body. Shisui, we have intruders down at the docks. I just sent Apita to scout. I sensed 12, but she will have more information. I can't tell you much, I can only tell you that I can feel their hostile intent and that they don't belong to Wave. It feels like they are laying in wait. York growled, They came into my country. Shisui put a calming hand on York's shoulder. Relax, York. They don't know we know. If they came in one of the overnight boats, then they aren't likely to move until nighttime. We will wait for Apita to report back before we make a move. Naruto spoke up. Shisui, I want at least one of them alive. I want to know who sent them and how they knew. Are your eyes ready? Shisui didn't miss the meaning behind Naruto's words, so he only nodded. His left Koto Amatsukami had a long-term brainwashing effect, and his right eye had the power of hypnotic insinuation. Yes, Ruto. I will be on it. Naruto spoke up once more in a voice of forced calm. Shisui, this is a day of celebration. I don't want anyone in Wave hurt. I don't want Ino to know this is happening. Can you do that for me? Shisui smiled confidently at Naruto. Quick, quiet and clean. We will get it done. Lord Hiyashi, can I request your assistance? Hiyashi nodded proudly. You don't even need to ask. I was going to insist anyways. Take Hinata and Gaara with you. Oh, and give Haku a chance to get in on this. She is excellent at assassination and incapacitating enemies. I will be the last line of defense and there is no way in hell I am going to let them near my family. Shisui put a calming hand on Naruto's shoulder. Trust us, Ruto. We will get it done. You just enjoy your day with your wife. Naruto clasped one of his hands over Shisui's and gave it a squeeze. Thanks, Shisui. Naruto walked back into the hospital while still in level 2 sage mode. His presence was overwhelmingly powerful up close and indoors, but Naruto wasn't going to lose track of the intruders. As he walked into the waiting room, everyone noticed his sage markings and saw the serious look on his face. It was Kurama that stood up first and spoke for the group. Kit, what's going on? Naruto weaved through seals in a blur before creating a privacy bubble over the waiting room, which put everyone on high alert. We have uninvited guests and I need to keep track of them and my friends who are going to risk their lives to deal with them. Kurama growled while Yosuke jumped to his feet and unsealed his katana. Rias put a calming hand on Kurama's shoulder and Himawari did the same for Yosuke. They dare come after my grand kits. Kurama bellowed despite the comforting presence of Rias and Naruto's senjutsu chakra. Naruto fixed his glowing emerald gaze on Kurama. Q, I need you to stay calm. Each of you is my last line of defense and I don't want Ino to know this is happening. Now, I am going to be by my fiance's side, and I am going to send Tsunade and Shizune out for you to inform them. Until this threat is neutralized, I am counting on each of you. Kurama forcibly calmed himself down and joined Hikari in giving Naruto a comforting hug. We got you, Kit. Nobody is going to touch our family. Naruto dropped the privacy dome and let the senjutsu chakra fade out. He took a deep, calming breath before entering the birthing room. Tsunade instantly saw Naruto's face, which changed immediately before Ino looked over. He walked up and gave Tsunade a hug and told her Q was looking for her. Tsunade motioned to Shizune and the two left the room, which drew concerned looks from Ino and Temari. What's going on, Ruto? Temari asked. Nothing, I just wanted some time alone with the loves of my life. Mama said things are going well, how are you feeling, Ino? Naruto replied, but his tone lacked its usual casual nature. Temari cocked an eyebrow, but she knew Naruto would tell her later. Ino growled at Naruto, you know mister, this is all your fault. This sucks. I am stuck like some lab experiment, I got juices leaking uncontrollably out of my Yahoo and I am cramping. You are totally going to go through a genjutsu to feel this. Naruto backed away sheepishly and chuckled nervously. Now, Ino, let's not say things we don't mean. Last I checked, it takes two to tango and you love dancing with me. Temari's stifled laughter only deepened Ino's growl. Look here, mister, you will do as I say, or you won't get any. Naruto smiled cheekily at Ino. Well, that's crazy. I don't know why you would punish yourself like that, but I guess I will support you through it. Temari burst out in laughter. This was the knucklehead she would love eternally because he always knew exactly how to make her feel better. He got you there, Ino. Ino pouted before her face contorted in pain and she went through a round of contractions. Grrrah. I am serious, Ruto. If you love me, then you will feel my pain. And if you do that for me, I will give you as many kids as you want. Naruto sighed and relented. We can talk about it later, princess, just focus on one thing at a time. Like your breathing, for example. Ahoo. Naruto finished by making the exaggerated breathing noises that Tsunade taught them. Before Ino could rip into Naruto, Tsunade and Shizune came back into the room. Out, brat. I need to do some more checks. He can stay mama, it is nothing he hasn't seen anyway. Ino chimed in. No, he needs to go greet Raza, Hakura and Kankuro who came all the way up here. He offered his prayers and tells you to hang in there, by the way, Ino. Tsunade's firm gaze told Naruto he should shut up and listen. Naruto and Temari kissed Ino on the forehead before leaving the room. Outside, Naruto could easily sense the first-gen shinobi of Wave taking position on their floor as well as the floors above and below. Naruto walked out to see a clone of Tsunade talking to Raza with a deadly serious look on her face. Naruto sighed, whoever the intruders were are going to pay big time for ruining his big day. Wave Country, Ushio Docks 12:30 p.m. Shisui, Team Rohan, Team Haka, Hiyashi, Hinata, Gaara, Shino, Shikamaru, Asuma and York were listening to a breakdown given to them by Apita. Sure, it was weird from them listening to a humanoid bee, but hey, there are crazier things out there. Shino had already let out the normal Kikaichu hive and the Senjutsu bugs to go and scout the warehouse in Apita's place. Okay, so I am Apita and I serve Master Naruto. It is nice to meet you all. Apita started awkwardly. Anyway, there are 12 guys in there and they are wearing red and black. No Hishiate. I am not much of a censor so I can't tell you much more about them. They are in a normal warehouse, and it seems like the leader is in the office on the southwest corner of the building. The others are lying low, but they are walking around inside. Shisui was nodding along and asked the first question, did you hear anything while doing your flyby? Apita nodded, it is hard to hear, but I picked up the words hospital, senju, demon and baby multiple times. Gaara growled and sand started swirling around him until Hinata placed a calming hand on his shoulder, a fact that wasn't missed by Hiyashi. I will kill them all. Just the fact that Naruto has to worry about this on his special day is wrong. Shino stepped up, other than Hinata he was the closest to Gaara. Relax, friend, we will take care of it. Naruto requested at least one alive and he doesn't want to alert Ino or the civilian population. Shisui took charge once more, okay, who is proficient at assassination techniques? Asuma, Shino, the Anbu and Shikamaru raised their hands. Okay. Does anyone here know a good barrier we could use to trap them in the building and prevent things from escaping into the village? Gaara spoke up, send for Kankuro. I can sense him, and he is the best at Fuinjutsu and Suna. With Naruto's notes, he is almost a seal master now. Shisui created a shadow clone that darted off to the hospital to retrieve Kankuro. Okay, Hyugas, please keep an eye on our guests until we are ready to attack. Gaara, you will lead Hiyashi, Hinata and Haku as the second wave. The first wave of attack will be the Anbu and Asuma. York and Hiyashi, you will coordinate things outside the barrier. Kankuro will only erect the barrier after we have engaged. Everyone nodded in understanding of their roles and the plan was issued once again when Kankuro arrived. Kankuro was furious that somebody dared to attack his family. He informed everyone that he would erect a lesser version of the Four Violet Flames formation barrier. It was only lesser because it couldn't stand up to as much punishment, but it should be more than enough to contain these chumps. Team 9 was left as the first line of defense for the hospital and Neji was the spotter. Guy was in serious mode and the Wave Police were working alongside Team 9. The crowd that was beginning to gather for a vigil was a problem, but that was on the beach side of the hospital. That door had already been sealed and there should be no issues from that side. Guy-sensei, I still don't know who would do something so unyouthful. Lee said loudly, but he was surprised when he got a stern and disappointed look from his sensei. In a rare demonstration of Guy's inside voice, Guy spoke calmly and quietly to Lee, Lee, now is not the time to be loud and youthful. Now is the time to be quiet and serious to make sure that we are doing our job. Neji, how is the strain on your eyes? I am okay for now, Guy-sensei. It shouldn't be a problem until later on. Neji responded professionally. Neji always admired Guy's serious side. 10-10, what extra defenses have you erected? Guy asked. Guy-sensei, I was asked not to add seals. Naruto already has the hospital covered. 10-10 responded sadly. She really wanted the chance to apply her skills in the arts. She was the best of her generation in Fuinjutsu. Back at the docks, everyone was in position to eliminate the enemy threat. Kankuro had spread out 4 of his puppets that would anchor the barrier, and all teams were ready to infiltrate. It was Team 1, the assassins, that entered first. They each snuck in and Team 2 wasn't to follow them in for at least 1 minute. At the minute mark, Kankuro would erect the barrier and make sure nothing escaped the battle zone. Inside the office of the warehouse manager, the captain was relaxing with his people. Laying low and incognito was all part of the job for an experienced shinobi. According to the ship captain, Olive Wave will celebrate when the demon's bitch spawns her child. He was going to wait for that, then they would bide their time and assault the hospital. Would you guys relax? If they see you stomping around the place like sentries, then that will just draw more attention to us. The captain said. But Cap, ain't Cha worried about the shinobi finding us? The captain laughed loudly. From what I heard, these guys just started training a security force. Ain't no second-rate ninja going to make me pucker up. Listen, newbie, laying low is part of the job description. But Kitsuchi said that we should never let our guards down. Then don't let your guard down. Sit the fuck down, relax and spread your. The captain never finished his words due to the senbon that was sticking out the side of his neck. Attack! One of the intruders shouted. As the captain was dying, teams RO and Haka were able to neutralize 4 of the unwelcomed guests of Wave Country. That left at least 7 left, which were pointed out by Hinata as she entered the fray alongside Gaara. Gaara roared as sand poured out of his seal and he released his and Shukaku's anger upon the intruders. Hinata had never seen Gaara this made before, and it made her slightly squish her legs together as her panties soaked through. Gaara's hand conducted the sand into javelins, needles, spears, arrows and all other sorts of pointy instruments that penetrated the thin boxes that the shinobi were hiding behind. Hinata simply remained by his side and pointed out the intruders as her Byakugan saw every single one of the intruders die. She gasped when she saw one of the intruders, a user of the explosion release bloodline, detonate himself. The explosion was massive and there was only a second in between Shisui shouting, "Take cover!" and the explosion that detonated half of the warehouse. Gaara's sand protected Hinata, Haku and Shikamaru who were close by. Kankuro hid himself in Black Ant. Shisui had Cat with him in his Susanoo. Bear had saved Lion with an Earth Dome. All in all, it was scary as shit, but the Konohan task force came out of it alive, if not with slight hearing problems. As the attack on the docks was happening, a big, white bird was flying over Ushio village. The bird was 200 meters up in the sky and the blonde man riding it was watching the scene play out through a monocle of sorts. He smirked as he saw one of his old explosion release comrades release his art upon the world. Sadly, unlike Deidara, that form of art was wimpy, and it was a one-use only type of art. A white plant creature formed out of a spore on Deidara's neck, and it took a creepy-looking head shape. Well, Deidara-senpai, that is that. There are too many shinobi present. Leader Sama said to abort the plan. Kisame cannot get through the barriers in the water surrounding the island without being detected. That is no good. There was no art displayed here today. No screams, no blood nor terror either. Deidara answered the plant spore. Deidara-senpai, Leader Sama does not want to simply enrage the Kyuubi Jinchuuriki. If we could have captured the baby, then it would be worth it. Without a hostage, it would be unwise to agitate him. Is he really that bee? Deidara was cut off as a wooden arrow ripped through the head of his clay bird. What the fuck? Deidara shouted as he reached his hands into his clay pouches as he was free falling through the sky. Earlier, Naruto was in sage mode checking in on the battle and making sure that his friends were okay during the raid. He winced when he sensed the explosion, which caused the Konoha team to panic quite a bit and one of them was injured. Realizing that everyone was going to be okay, Naruto spread his senses out and it was then that he sensed a chakra presence above the city. With a growl, Naruto realized who was flying above his city and spying. He activated his Mokudan abilities and did his best to shape it. A great bow formed in his hands, and he created a thin, yet powerful, vine to act as the drawstring. Channeling a healthy amount of chakra into a Mokudan arrow, Naruto released the arrow in the projected flight path of his target. The Senjutsu reinforced Mokudan arrow tore through the bird, and he was already forming another arrow. Naruto took aim and let loose. Deidara was calm despite only being 100 meters above the ground now, but he had his clay, and he could do this. That was when he saw another massive arrow tearing through the skies toward him. The Zetsu spore grew and pushed him out of the way, but not before the arrow ripped his right arm from the elbow down. With his left hand, Deidara summoned another, smaller clay bird that dipped and dived below a third arrow and flew off into the distance. Crazy blonde bastard, Deidara shouted as he piled a fistful of clay onto his bleeding wound to stem the bleeding. I need to get the hell out of here. Naruto watched the bird fly away and couldn't suppress the growl that was escaping from his throat. That was his chance to eliminate one massive pain in the ass and he missed. Sure, it was a long shot, but it was still a clear chance to end one of his future opponents. Naruto felt a calming hand on his shoulder and turned to see Kurama looking at him with an understanding look. Kit, today is a day for celebration. Your friends handled one threat and you just sent the other one packing. Now, Ino is almost done, so hurry to your mate. Kurama said in a soft and reassuring tone. Naruto hugged Kurama and darted back into the hospital. The kitsune looked out over the horizon and made damn sure that the mad bomber wasn't coming back. With a sigh, Kurama followed his partner back into the hospital. Naruto skipped straight past the waiting room and gave the others an entertaining distraction as he scurried down the hall and back into the room with Ino and Temari. Naruto was glad Kurama recovered him from the roof, because he got a tongue lashing from Ino for almost missing the birth of his first son. Sure enough, 5 sets of contractions and 10 minutes later Naruto's son let his first cry ring out in the land of the living. Tsunade attended to Ino and began healing her while Shizune played her part as the midwife and tended to the baby. Naruto wrested his crushed hand from Ino and placed a soft kiss on her tired and sweaty forehead. You did great, my love. You did great, Naruto whispered in her ear. Thanks, Ruto. Where is my boy? Ino asked tiredly. At that point, Shizune came over and placed the cleaned and swaddled baby on Ino's bare breasts. Congratulations, you two. So, what are you going to name him? Naruto looked expectantly at Ino, who had made it very clear that she had the final say on baby names. Hashi Senju Uzumaki. Ino replied while looking lovingly at her baby boy and placing a kiss on his forehead. Naruto offered a gigawatt smile that brightened the room. I like it. In Kami's realm, a big, tall, goofy brunette man with long hair cried anime tears. This man was none other than Hashirama Senju that was recently released from Susanoo's gourd of drunken dreams by order of Kami. The goddess got endless amusement from her previous chosen's antics and even more amusement from the stern overreactions from Mito Uzumaki. Kushina and Minato were crying in joy as they watched the birth of the first, or technically third, grandchild. Sniff, sniff, I can't believe, sniff, sniff, that they named him after me, wahaha. Hashirama wailed in joy and gratitude before being bonked on the head by Mito. Hashirama Senju, this isn't about you. Today is about our great-grandchild, Uof. Mito shouted at him. My, it has certainly gotten lively at our viewing parties. Kami said while smiling and tapping her chin. Oh, relax, Kami-chan. They are family and you know you love it. Kushina said merrily. Minato smiled awkwardly at Kami. Yeah, thank you for this opportunity, Kami-sama. It is more than we deserve. Kami shot a wry look at Kushina. Even in the afterlife he is so formal. How did one as wild as you fall for someone so stiff? Minato had a raincloud form over his head, and he pouted animatedly as Kushina laughed. Kami's realm celebrated the birth of the newest Senju Uzumaki, well, all except for the Iwa viewers. They only ever tuned in for Naruto's fights and they only watched while hoping for him to be defeated. It was almost as if they didn't grasp the concept of Naruto's death literally meant the end of the world, again. Back in the hospital, Naruto was holding his son for the first time and Tsunade had shooed Naruto out of the room to give Ino some rest. Naruto walked into the waiting room where he saw everyone that was there to visit him. Inoichi and Lina were up front and smiling animatedly as they got the first look of their blonde-haired, blue-eyed grandson. Behind the two, Anko was holding Kushina and Himawari was holding Suya. Everyone, it is my greatest pleasure to introduce you to Hashi Senju Uzumaki. He said before bringing the baby over to his half-siblings. And this, little guy, these are your baby sisters Suya and Kushina. Return to Uzushiogacore. After a month, Kinji contacted Naruto and informed him that he had a couple experts ready to go to Uzushiogakure and begin planning the resurrection of the fallen city. Naruto was excited to restore his home of origin, and it would honestly be a nice fallback if Konoha kept being a pain in his ass. Naruto was packing up and making sure they had everything they needed for 3 babies to join the trip. The girls insisted on coming and seeing the fabled land of the Uzumaki, and Naruto was excited to show them. Tsunade had mumbled and groaned about traveling with newborns, but she realized it was a futile battle. Her family was every bit as stubborn, tenacious and bone-headed as she was, and she really didn't feel like beating her head against a wall. She reluctantly approved, but she insisted that Naruto would have to get them set up in the clan house before anything else was done. This meant that Tazuna was going to get drawn into the trip, which meant Tsunami, Kaisa, Inari and York were coming as well. Tsunade swore that her family was going to become a band of traveling gypsies at this rate. As Tsunade was packing her things in a scroll, she thought back to the first time she ventured to Uzushiogakure with Naruto and Shizune. The long-awaited flashback. Naruto was 8 years old, in this life, and he had requested to make the trip to Uzushiogakure to visit his ancestral home and see if he could find any remaining pieces of his heritage. Tsunade had put the trip off for long enough and knew that they should probably go now that everything in Wave Country and Ushio Village was properly set up. Thus, she got Kaisa and York to captain a boat across the whirlpools to the land of eddies. The trip from Wave didn't even take a full day by boat, but it was Tsunade's first time disarming the whirlpool defenses that still surrounded the island. Naruto wanted to find the security seals and attempt to replicate them for Wave, which would be a significant boost to the natural defenses of Wave Country. That being said, the Wave group made it past the whirlpool safely and they landed on Uzushio and set off to explore the land. Be careful everyone and stick together. There are multiple genjutsu barriers and other subtle defenses that will make you walk around in circles. Naruto said with his kitsune eyes active. Shizune, York and Kaisa, link up and do your best to routinely pulse your chakra. That is the only way to counter an area of effect genjutsu barrier. Tsunade added as she put a hand on Naruto's shoulder. You should be fine, mama. According to my mom's journal, the barriers will only block out non-Uzumaki and you are at least 1/4 Uzumaki. Naruto said. Not taking any chances, brat. Tsunade settled the debate with finality. Thus, the fivesome walked across the beach and into the jungle of Uzu without properly knowing where they were heading. Naruto created 20 wood clones to go and scout the area as he led his family and friends through the dense, tropical jungle. It didn't take long for the scars of the past to rear their ugly heads as rusted metal weapons, scuffed hishiate and an abundance of skeletons littered the forest and let the explorers know that they were most likely headed in the right direction. What surprised everyone was the sheer number of skeletons and weapons that littered the jungle floor after nearly 25 years. The forest had filled in the craters and other signs of battle, but the bones were a constant reminder that this land had suffered a serious tragedy. After some encouragement from Tsunade, Naruto began repeatedly casting the minor earth jutsu that was developed to bury people in the field. The earth repeatedly softened enough to swallow its intended contents before setting the contents to rest 6 feet underground where the remains would no longer be disturbed. Tsunade began helping Naruto due to the sheer number of corpses, and she really didn't want a bunch of skeletons remaining on the island if they ever decided to rebuild Uzushio. The going was slow due to the repeated impromptu burials, and the group ended up spending the first night camping out. The good thing about camping out with the senjus was that Fuinjutsu made it infinitely more comfortable than it would otherwise be. At the crack of dawn, they resumed their exploration in a similar manner and were able to reach the ruins of Uzushiogakure by midday. This was when Tsunade and Naruto began to weep openly as they started noticing more and more Uzu hishiate. Rather than bury them independently, Naruto created a horde of shadow clones to gather the remains of his fallen family. He was going to lay their remains to rest together because family comes before all. After recovering and burying every Uzumaki and those loyal to Uzushio, the Senju group finally focused on exploring the ruins. Most of the buildings were in tatters, but a few remained untouched behind Uzumaki barriers that pulled off of the natural energy of the land. Naruto was able to get through these barriers after examining them for an hour or so, and he was able to search 5 houses that belonged to branch family members of the Uzumaki clan. After searching those houses, Tsunade guided Naruto toward where she remembered the Uzukage Tower was. Unlike the houses that were protected by barriers, it was clear that the barrier surrounding the Uzukage Tower was destroyed by overwhelming force. There was a circle of rubble that used to be a building, and the devastation around the tower was never healed by nature. Naruto stepped into the tower and began looking around on the ground floor, which was the only remaining floor of the once great command center of the Uzumaki. Mama, is this all that is left? Naruto said despondently with tears trickling down his cheeks. Tsunade wore a sad frown on her face as she placed a comforting hand on Naruto's shoulder. I don't know, kiddo. I am sure that this was the tower though. Naruto sniffled a bit. What about the main Uzumaki compound? Did you ever visit there? Yeah kiddo, it is up the hill a bit. The main branch was set up slightly outside of the village. Tsunade answered softly. The group stepped out of the rubble and walked up the hill toward where Tsunade remembered the Uzumaki's main house being. It was nearly a kilometer outside of the village on a hill that overlooked Uzushiogakure, and Naruto could see why the clan wanted to live up here. It was beautiful and it offered a full view of the southern side of the island. He walked up the remains of a path until he saw a clearing. Just a clearing. Inside the mindscape, Rias was paying rapt attention and she wanted to help Naruto find any part of his ancestry that she could. Hey, Fox, tell the kid to turn on your eyes. If they went into full lockdown, then there will be more seals and stronger barriers protecting the important places. Kit, use my eyes again. Kurama said through the mind link. Look for any active seals and don't overlook anything. Naruto's eyes turned red with the black vertical slit as Naruto gained a new view of the old home of his ancestors. You're right, Q. There is so much going on I don't even know where to start though. Kurama saw the multiple barriers and protections that were erected around this clan compound. He let out a high-pitched whistle in appreciation of the Uzumaki's efforts in protecting their home. Wow, Kit, that is a lot. Start from the outside and work your way in. Outside, Tsunade and Shizune were exploring the invisible barriers that were preventing them from taking another step forward. Once again, Naruto pulled on Kurama's chakra and created 100 shadow clones that activated the Kitsune eyes and spread out to explore the clan compound. It took hours, then it took the full day, and finally Naruto was able to crack the final blood seal that was protecting the compound shortly before the sun set. The final barrier seal was an Uzumaki blood seal combined with a Fuinjutsu puzzle that had to be completed. Naruto was sure that only an Uzumaki would be able to bypass such a seal. That wasn't even mentioning how all of these seals were connected to Senjutsu chakra and powered themselves off the natural energy of the island. His clan were truly masters of the sealing arts. The Senju family was worn out from the long day of exploring and decided to sleep in the clan head's house that was positioned over a cliff with an overlook of the whole clan compound and village below. It was weird sleeping in the preserved home of his ancestors that looked like it was cleaned and maintained for the past 25 years. That being said, Naruto was more than ready to cuddle up into Tsunade. The next day, Naruto explored the clan compound, and that was where he found the wealth of Uzumaki knowledge. The clan head's study had a space-time portal to the Uzumaki library, and Naruto would later notice that a couple of these seals could be found scattered throughout Uzushigakure. The Uzumaki library was everything Naruto was hoping for and more. Tsunade let Naruto and his clones copy as much as they could for the next 2 weeks, but she planned on leaving the original scrolls in the library. End of flashback. The second trip to Uzushiogakure went far more smoothly, and they were able to pull into the old Uzumaki ports after Naruto hopped out and built some new docks using his Mokuden. The full training trip and Senju family as well as Haku, Tsunami, Kaisa, Inari, Kato and Kiko, Tsunami and Kaisa's twin 2-year-olds, York and Tazuna, were along for the ride this time around. Wow, this place looks old. Inari offered his thoughts to the group as everyone was dismounting the ship. Kaisa ruffled Inari's hair. I have heard many a sailor talk about how great this city used to be. It is sad to see it like this. Naruto sighed sadly. Yeah, I wish I could have seen it. Although, we will be sure to build it up bigger and better than ever. Damn straight kiddo. You have the super bridge builder and master craft extraordinaire here. Tazuna said proudly as he pulled on the ever-present white towel that was slung over his neck. Naruto belted out a laugh and Hikari chirped, Old man, don't let the bridge go to your head. This city is going to be far harder to build and we need to make it even more awesome. Mama, when is Kinji supposed to be at the wave port? Naruto asked. Next week, Ruto. I will have you flash back there and then you can get them through the whirlpools. Tsunade answered, distracted as she once again soaked in the beauty and devastation of the village. Alright everyone, let's get to the clan compounds and get set up. Naruto said in an attempt to take control of the clusterfuck. 2 weeks later, emergency. The time on Uzu was great for the Senju family. Every day felt like a productive day as Naruto worked with Kinji and the prospector to rebuild the key parts of the village infrastructure first. Without Mokuten, this part of the process would have taken many months, if not years. However, the legendary ability meant that Naruto could simply erect and adapt the building with his Mokuten, which meant Tazuna could immediately begin planning out the second-level construction such as wiring and some standard seals that he was familiar with. Kinji's prospector was astounded at how quickly the new buildings were erected and he bumped up the timeline to open New Uzu by a full year after the first week of watching Naruto work. Lord Senju, if you continue at this pace then we will be able to start moving farmers and other developers to the island shortly. Thanks, Saiso. I appreciate your help with this. What will be the most time-consuming part of that stage in the plan? Naruto asked. Deforestation and derooting. We will need to prepare some of the lands for harvest so that you don't have to import all of your food. Saiso answered. Naruto cocked an eyebrow at Saiso before turning to Kinji. Uncle Kin, has he never seen how we work? Has he ever worked with shinobi? Kinji belted out a laugh loud enough to embarrass Kaori, who insisted on tagging along with her father and Madame Shijimi. Ho, 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 Saiso, just point out where you think it would be best for the farms to be built. This young man will have it done in a week. Saiso looked incredulously at Naruto and then back at Kinji. Lord Daimyo, you can't be serious. Try us. Naruto said with a cocky grin as he called his study group over. Oi, family, we have a challenge. We are going to use earth ninjutsu to prepare our new fields. Tamari, wind to sever the trees. Make sure to keep them harvestable. Rias and Hikari, enough storage scrolls to encompass all of the wood of this forest. Gaara and Tsunade, we don't want to push the roots down, we want them out. Once that is done, we will need to till the soil and get it ready. Saiso remained dubious despite the honored Senju family's attitude. That was until he dislocated his jaw 4 hours later after 10 acres of forest were cleared in an afternoon and a newly tilled and prepared field was ready to go. Saiso remained in a state of stunned disbelief until a laughing Kinji slapped him on the back after 10 minutes of laughing uproariously. Lord Kinji, how come we don't do this in the land of fire? Saiso whispered. Kinji adopted a thinking pose before answering, because old fools keep us stuck in the ways of the past. This isn't that half of what they can do either, Saiso. That night, everyone was gathered together in the clan head's home, and they were playing cards while sipping on some sake after the kids were put to sleep. Everyone was cuddled up with their significant others, except Hikari and Yami, who decided to cuddle in sibling affection so as not to be left out. The night was going well until Naruto immediately sat up bolt straight and brought everyone's attention to him. I gotta go, Naruto said. What's wrong, brat? Tsunade barked. Team 10's Horizon beacon was just activated. That means they are in trouble. Naruto shouted while he ran to put on his combat uniform. He would at least need his vest and jacket. Take us with you, Tamari shouted. No, not until I know what is going on. Naruto shouted adamantly from his temporary room as he rushed to get into combat mode. Mama, set up a long-range Horizon beacon for me and be ready for wounded. Before anyone else could yell anything at him, they all saw a green and red flash come from the room Naruto was using. Ino whispered, be safe, Ruto. 10 minutes prior, Team 7 and Team 10 were in for a fight for their lives against 2 members of the Akatsuki in the middle of their C-ranked mission to Takigakure. They were just supposed to check in with the village and finish off a trade agreement before returning to Konoha. As they were hanging out in the hotel and getting ready for an early night, sounds of battle and chaos began spreading around the city. Kakashi rushed out onto the hotel balcony and saw that there was a commotion at the front of the city, and he could see Taki ninjas scrambling to respond to it. That was when he heard an explosion and felt a surge of chakra coming from the great tree that was the cornerstone of Takigakure. He immediately ordered the teams to get their equipment on and remove all restrictive seals. "Sensei, we have to go check on Fu. She is the only one that resides near the Great Tree," Shino insisted. Shino had been spending the past week getting to know Fu, and she was practically royalty to a clan like the Aburame. "Kakashi, they are our allies and we have standing orders to combat the Akatsuki," Asuma added. Kakashi sighed before responding, "All right, Asuma, you go and see if we can offer our support to the skirmish in the village. If they refuse your help, meet us at the lake in front of the Great Tree. Team 7, you are to remain in a support capacity until I call you into the fight. Shino, if Fu is incapacitated, you will be her protective detail. Sakura, you are medical and long-range support. Kiba and Akamaru, you will not engage unless I call for you. Shika, Choji and Tayuya, you will come with me. We will only offer our support and get involved if Taki requests it. We cannot force our way into the fight while in an allied village." Asuma barked as he released his seals and prepared his trench knives. Team 7 arrived at the battlegrounds near the Great Tree around 7 minutes after hearing the first alarm. During their travels, Kakashi and Shino felt the release of Biju Chakra, which pretty much confirmed their worst fears. Kakashi had his team hang back until he could analyze the threat, and things weren't looking good. Team 7 arrived to see a big man and some monstrosity of a creature standing over a mid-haired girl who was clearly badly injured. "Shino, you are in charge. I will try to separate him from Fu. Use your bugs to aid me," Kakashi ordered. Kakashi opened the engagement with a volley of lightning-encased kunai that forced the enemy shinobi to dodge to the side, which at least took his foot off of the Jinchuuriki's chest. Kakashi followed up the kunai with a close-quarters engagement with the Akatsuki member. As he closed the distance, he lifted his Hishiate and brought his Sharingan into the fight early on. Kakuzu turned and met the new threat head-on with his Iwa-style diamond armor, which made his body super hardened to increase his offense and defense. The engagement was quick, fast, dirty and quite one-sided. Everything Kakashi threw at Kakuzu seemed to bounce right off of him, and it took Kakashi a severe blow to his chest to realize that his opponent was using Earth Jutsu to harden his skin. Kakashi had fought enough shinobi from Iwa to realize an Earth-style reinforcement jutsu, and he immediately changed tactics. He recovered from the blow, encased his kunai in a potent lightning chakra and re-engaged his opponent. Team 7 watched on, and they were scared to see Kakashi failing to land a decisive blow on his opponent. As that fight dragged on, they were forced to deal with a creature that seemed to be made of a bunch of black threads, and it wore a mask that bore the kanji for fire. The original attack from the creature caught them by surprise, and the only reason they survived the surprise fireball was a quick, Earth-style, mud wall, from Shino. That didn't stop the creature from ramming into Kiba, which sent him sprawling. Shino reacted immediately by unleashing his Kikaichu and Biju bugs to launch his initial onslaught on the intimidating creature. He also pulsed chakra into the lid of his Senjutsu beetles and prepared to set up the battlefield to deal with this new opponent. Luckily, Kiba was made of tough stuff, and he was able to shake off the tackle from the tentacled and masked creature. He recovered quickly and easily determined that he would need his Inuzuka food pills and threw one to his partner as well. Team 7's teamwork was shaky at best, but Shino did his best to respond to the evolving battlefield, and he played defense for his frontline teammate. That being said, the masked creature's body was iron hard, and it was able to withstand multiple hits from the Gatsuga attack. The creature also withstood the explosions from his Biju bugs, and it was able to burn the Kikaichu he had released. This told Shino that the body was not the way to go, as he erected yet another mud wall to protect Kiba from the creature's flames. It was at that time that the lid to his gourd clicked open and he was able to call upon his Senjutsu beetles. He felt the communication link with Chiketa open up, and he quickly informed her and the hive of his recent discoveries on their opponent. With a new plan in mind, Shino locked the creature in an Earth-style, earthen coffin, which was just 4 earth walls erected close together around the opponent. Kiba, fall back and recover. Sakura, tend to him. I have a plan, Shino shouted to his teammates. Kakashi was having a rough time against a clearly superior opponent. So far, Kakashi recognized his opponent as Kakuzu the Immortal, and he had briefly recalled his opponent's known abilities. However, knowing your opponent's abilities doesn't make it that much easier to counter them when your opponent displays mastery over 4 elements. Thus, Kakashi was fighting a defensive battle to buy time for his team to deal with the creature that was attacking them. Shino used the 10 seconds his earthen coffin bought the team to tell them his plan, and he could only pray it worked. Sakura didn't bring anything to the fight, and Kiba would need far more accuracy if he was going to land a decisive blow on the mask. Therefore, Shino's plan revolved around him and his new senjutsu beetles that had spread out around the coffin. Team 7 saw a red glow from within the coffin, and a second later the coffin exploded outward in a forceful display of fire and earth shrapnel. Kiba trusted Shino and he listened to the guy's plan. Therefore, he led the renewed assault with a fang over fang with Akamaru, which failed once more, before Kiba jumped back and created distance. The Inuzuka attack kept the creature in one place when it was assaulted from all sides by football-sized beetles that were flying at high speeds. The creature attempted an area of effect fire attack, but that didn't stop the horde of airborne beetles that were now locked onto their target. The hardened pincers of the beetles tore into the creature and 2 beetles were able to tunnel through the mask. After the beetles' attack, the creature let out a screech before the threads suddenly untangled and fell limply onto the ground. Team 7's minor victory was overshadowed by a scream from Kakashi. In that moment, Shino made the call and ran forward to assist his sensei. "Sakura, use the Hiraishin beacon, now!" Shino shouted over his shoulder as he ran to back up his sensei. Naruto arrived at a chaotic fight, and the immediate influx of negative emotions was overwhelming to the Senju heir that was in sage mode. He sensed an ongoing fight near him and pandemonium in the village. He decided to focus on Team 7 since they were the ones that called for support. Naruto created 10 clones to scout the area and then immediately headed towards the biggest chakra signature. Naruto arrived to see Shino being held aloft by multiple black threads in front of a man that Naruto immediately recognized. Shino's arms were impaled, and Naruto flashed back to memories of Kakuzu trying to rip out his opponent's hearts to replenish his own. With a thought to Kurama, Naruto flickered into KSM-1 mode and disappeared in a golden blur towards Kakuzu. Naruto was so fast that he caught the so-called immortal off guard as a katana encased in copious amounts of wind chakra cut an upward slash through the black tentacles that were threatening his friend. After severing the tentacles, Naruto levied a knee to Kakuzu's hardened gut before Naruto spun on his plant foot and used his right foot to lash out in a bone-crunching side kick. Kakuzu went flying off into the distance and Naruto used the time that bought him to take stock of the current situation. Kakashi was lying 10 feet away with burns on his right arm and an earth spike through his left shoulder. Shino was crawling on the ground completely incapacitated due to the injuries to all 4 limbs. Akamaru was whimpering in pain and distress as he licked Kiba's unconscious face. Sakura had crumpled to her knees, but she didn't look to be in immediate danger. It was then that Naruto noticed Fu's crumpled form lying over a puddle of blood. Naruto formed 5 wood clones and fed enough of Kurama's chakra into the clones for them to make the jump to Uzu. Naruto knew that the Hiraishin put stress on the target's body, but that would have to do for now because they were each in critical condition and Naruto knew 4 great medics that were back in Uzushiogakure right now. As Naruto saw Kakuzu walking towards him, his clones grabbed all of the wounded and disappeared in flashes of golden light. "I should have known you would be with the Konoha brats, Kyuubi Jinchuuriki. I am in a rather foul mood, and I am in need of a heart. I advise you to scurry away, brat. You are way out of your league." Kakuzu growled. Naruto laughed heartily in his best imitation of Hashirama. "Ho, ho, ho, Kakuzu, the so-called immortal doesn't want a rematch. That is a shame because my grandfather should have ended you instead of pitying you." Kakuzu's growl deepened. "Oh, please, brat. Just because you caught a bunch of Iwa and sound chumps off guard doesn't mean you can step into Hashirama's shoes." Naruto's laughter ceased and a serious look found its way onto his face. "No, Kakuzu, you are wrong. Your little band of merry men doesn't know what they are up against, so let me show you how futile your efforts are." Before Kakuzu could answer the brat's outrageous statement, he felt an overwhelming aura and power settled upon his shoulders and his eyes widened. Then, all hell broke loose and Kakuzu felt fear for the first time in 85 years. Kakuzu watched the golden form of the Kyuubi Jinchuuriki become enshrouded in a wooden armor and Kakuzu saw 4 chakra chains emerge from the back of the golden cloak. In a golden blur, Kakuzu felt pain lance through his arm that blocked the blow as he was sent flying 10 meters. As Kakuzu was recovering, He missed the chain that was lanced through his right arm, and he was pulled toward Naruto. As Naruto yanked the chain back, he also dashed forward with his 3 remaining chains held out in front of him in a triangular trident form. Naruto heard and felt 3 squelches before he launched a Mokuden gauntlet at Kakuzu's face. The Akatsuki member was flown backward as chains ripped out of his body due to its sudden change in momentum. That one attack had taken out 2 of the masks he wore and narrowly missed a 3rd mask. That meant that Kakuzu was unconscious for most of the flight, and it took a second after impact for his new heart to get into place and restore movement to his shattered and torn body. Kakuzu was a proud man that had lived for a long time. He was alive during the times of Hashirama, and he witnessed the prowess of the Mokuden firsthand. It was that retreat that led to his village's betrayal, which led to him spending years in prison before becoming a missing ninja. After his village's betrayal, Kakuzu only believed in 2 things, money and power. If the money was good enough, then he would commit himself to any mission that his power could handle. Kakuzu was a firm believer in not signing checks that your body can't cash, and he instinctively knew that his body couldn't cash this particular check. As one of his 2 remaining hearts slid into place, Kakuzu immediately decided to retreat. He hoped the Kyuubi brat would go to the village rather than chase him down. He would live to fight another day and he needed to notify the organization of the kid's power. Therefore, Kakuzu put his sizable chakra to work and performed a long-range shunshin that got him the fuck out of dodge. Naruto felt Kakuzu leave Takigakure and he was torn between giving chase to him and going to help in the village. He couldn't sustain KSM-1 for long and he decided to drop the chakra cloak before he burnt out his tenketsu. He should be able to make do with sage mode, so he spread his senses into the village to get an understanding of what was going on there. His decision to abandon Kakuzu was made for him when he identified the sinister chakra of Hidan the Jushinist, and he simultaneously felt the weakening chakra signature of a friend. He locked onto the beacon that he knew Team 10 would be carrying and disappeared in a green flash. Naruto arrived to see the crazy Jushinist in the middle of his ritual and Asuma Sarutobi was once again on the receiving end. Naruto saw Shikamaru struggling to hold the Jushinist from plunging the spiked rod into his heart. Shika was bleeding profusely from a wound on his side and Naruto could tell that he couldn't hold on much longer. For as much as he changed the timeline, some things insisted on staying the same. However, Naruto was not going to let this go down like last time. Naruto whipped out a 3-pronged kunai and tossed it at the Jushinist. As the kunai approached Hidan's left ear, Naruto appeared in a greed flash and tackled the crazy motherfucker out of his ritual circle. Naruto remembered Shikamaru talking about one of the most traumatic events of his past life, and he remembered the analytical breakdown that Shikamaru gave. Any damage done to Hidan in the ritual circle would also be done to the individual linked to Hidan's blood ritual. Therefore, Naruto settled with a firm, yet not overly damaging, tackle. The result was Hidan flying out of the circle, which made his markings disappear. It also let Asuma Sarutobi crumble to the ground, where Choji immediately took up a defensive position around him. Naruto never got to fight the insane fanatic of Jashin last time around. However, Naruto did notice the change in the guy's appearance, and he assumed that would mean that he is no longer linked to the ritual. Therefore, he decided to not risk anything, and he let loose 9 Mokuden chains that impaled the man as Naruto recovered from the tumble to the ground. While Naruto would normally prefer to enjoy the fight, he had multiple hurt friends and allies that were in a critical situation, which forced his hand into ending the battle quickly. As Naruto hoisted the Jushinist up with his chains, he noticed that the religious fanatic genuinely shrugged off the pain of 3 chains in his gut and 1 chain in each limb. It was truly an amazing sight to see when the crazy motherfucker kept spouting off at the mouth. "Oi, shithead, would you shut up the fucking fanatical cunt? Our sensei is in critical condition over here and Shika is fucked up too." Tayuya shouted. That snapped Naruto out of it, so Naruto unsealed Benihime and walked calmly toward the immobilized Jushinist. Hidan saw this and kept spouting off at the mouth. "Oi, Kyuubi brat, what gives you the right to interrupt my sacrifices to Lord Jashin? Put me down. I need to honor Lord Jashin more. Hidan of the Akatsuki, for your crimes against the people of Takigakure and my friends, I, Naruto Senju Uzumaki, sentence you to death." Naruto said in an icy calm. "Shut the fuck up, you ignorant child. I am immortal thanks to the glory of Lord Jashin," Hidan shouted. Then I will put your immortality to the test. Naruto replied in an icy calm as he sent a wind blade from Benihime that severed the immobilized man's head. As Hidan's head clattered to the ground, he continued shouting. See, motherfucker, I am immortal. Hidan shouted and cackled insanely. His cackling ceased when a wood clone grabbed Hidan by his hair and the Jushinist watched as his body was shredded to pieces by Naruto's chakra chains. Naruto cocked an eyebrow at the Jushinist before he walked over to his clone holding the head. Any last words? Oh mighty immortal. Fuck. You, heathen. Hidan shrieked before attempting to bite Naruto. Naruto nodded to his clone who put a glowing blue hand on Hidan's head. Kanji in thick black lines spread out over the head and the screaming ceased immediately. Naruto then turned to the remains of Hidan and sealed them in a scroll before he casually tossed the scroll into the air and burned it unceremoniously. Naruto then got on eye level with the head of the Jushinist that was looking at him with eyes wide in horror. Look here, you crazy religious fuck. I don't care what god you worship. They won't protect you from me. Now, let's see if you can survive a storage scroll with no oxygen, no light and no hope of escape. Naruto hissed in a whisper before he began writing on a scroll that he removed from his Fuinjutsu kit. A moment after Naruto sealed the head away, shouts of gratitude erupted from shinobi around the combat zone and Team 10 sighed in relief. Naruto ignored them and walked over to Asuma, who really was in a bad condition. Naruto reached down and applied a stasis seal over Asuma before he reached into his pouch and pulled out a medical stasis scroll. He had Choji lay Asuma onto the stasis scroll before Asuma puffed away in a wisp of chakra smoke. Alright guys, I can get him to Tsunade. That scroll buys me 24 hours. Shika, what happened to you? Naruto asked with concern as he turned to his friend whose flak jacket and combat shirt were torn and saturated with blood. Shikamaru winced as he raised his arm to give Naruto a better look. That crazy guy got me with his scythe. Asuma-sensei immediately tried to stop him from doing his ritual on me and was injured during that attack. That guy got one drop of his blood then began laying into him with that blood ritual. I finally got him with my shadow and then you showed up. Yeah, that crazy fucktard wouldn't stop spouting off like a stupid religious cunt, but when my doki hit him, it only hurt Asuma-sensei. Tayuya added. Naruto cocked an eyebrow at Tayuya, is that so? And when did you get out on good behavior? Choji stepped in, Naruto, now is not the best time. How are we going to get Asuma to a hospital? Naruto put a calming hand on the panicking Choji's shoulder, relax, big man, I will take you out the same way I came in. Before I do that, I need to talk to Taki's representative though. It looks like they took a hit. At that moment, a formation of Taki shinobi came forward with a man dressed in a dark blue kimono at the front. Lord Senju, we are most grateful for your help, but I would like to know how you got into my village. Naruto turned on professional mode and turned to address the newcomers. My compatriots called in for emergency support. Forgive me for not telling you exactly how, but if you know my father then you should be able to understand. May I ask who I am speaking with? The man bowed, ah, yes, how rude of me. I am Shibuki, the elected leader of this village. I will forego my inquisition since we are indebted to you. Naruto nodded, very well, Lord Shibuki, I have a critically injured team member and one that needs immediate medical attention. I do not know what mission they were on, but may I suggest we postpone it to a later date. Very well, Lord Senju. Before you go, were you involved in the battle at the Great Tree? Naruto sighed, guessing what information he wanted, but he didn't want to tell him. Yes, I fought of Kakuzu, you guys should be familiar with him. He severely injured Team 7 and they were the ones that called me in for emergency support. Kakuzu fled and I sensed the ongoing battle here and decided to come aid my comrades. Can you tell me more about that fight? I have yet to send a team over to investigate. Shibuki asked in a meek and pitiful manner. Lord Shibuki, as I have stated, I have critically injured, and I need to evacuate them. If you have an issue, please take it up with the Hokage through the proper channels at a different time. For now, I need to ensure the safety of my teams that helped you voluntarily. Naruto replied forcefully. Very well, you may take your leave. Shibuki said with a curt bow. Hey, Q, do I have enough juice left to go into KSM again and flash to Uzu? Naruto thought. Yeah, Kit, we can do that. We will need to rest tomorrow though. Kurama replied. Okay, Team 10, gather around and place a hand on me. Naruto said out loud to his friends. What the fuck would I touch your admittedly sexy ass for? Tayuya asked. Tayuya, do as he says. Now, Shikamaru said forcefully, which cowed the new addition to Team 10. As Team 10 placed their hands upon Naruto, he ignited into his KSM mode, took 10 seconds to feel out the Horizon beacon in Uzu and then disappeared along with Team 10 in a golden flash. They left a burning village and a bunch of dumbstruck Taki shinobi in their wake. Team 10 arrived in a bustling house as Tsunade was shouting and coordinating Ino, Hinata, Haku and Shizune while they provided medical treatments to the injured Konoha shinobi. Naruto handed off Shikamaru to Shizune and called out to Tsunade, Mama, I need to talk to you outside. I am kinda busy, brat. Tsunade said agitatedly. It is important, Mama. Naruto insisted. Tsunade relented and followed Naruto out onto the porch. What is it, brat? Naruto held up a stasis scroll, and Tsunade's eyes widened. I have Asuma-sensei in here. From what I saw, he had damage to both legs and at least 2 puncture wounds through the abdomen. There was also a punctured lung. I cannot flash anymore right now, and I wanted to know if you want to handle him here or if we should wait to take him to Wave. Tsunade thought about it for a bit. I know you probably didn't have time, but where were the wounds? Right kidney and spleen. The other was probably along the large intestine. The right lung and my best guess imply that it was full of blood and collapsed. The leg wounds weren't spurting, so most likely flesh wound, but it was from that Hidan freak. Naruto answered thoughtfully. Okay, keep him in the scroll. Naruto, you need to know something. Naruto looked expectantly at Tsunade. Fu isn't going to make it. Her wounds aren't healing, and Chomei's chakra is already starting to leak out. I heard Kakuzu was there, and his threads pierced Fu's heart and primary chakra core. By the time she got here, the damage to the heart was too extensive. Chomei's chakra is the only thing keeping her alive right now. Fuck. Naruto shouted and punched the railing of the deck, which disintegrated into splinters from the sudden blow. Tsunade put a comforting hand on his shoulder. Look, kiddo, go talk to her, or at least Chomei, and try to do what good you can. Naruto sighed and fell into Tsunade's embrace. Damn it, mama. This wasn't supposed to happen like this. Tsunade squeezed him passionately. We do the best we can, kiddo. Remember, we can't save everyone. It is not our job to save everyone. We just do the best we can for as many as we can. Naruto grunted before an idea came to him. He bit his thumb and weaved through hand signs before saying, summoning jutsu, Shuna the divine priestess. Shuna appeared in all her regal beauty, and she listened to Naruto. She went with Tsunade into the room and took a look at Fu. After 10 minutes, the two exited the room with somber looks on their faces. Thanks for trying, Shuna. It was a desperation move. Naruto said softly. It is quite all right, Naruto. I have come to enjoy this world and I treasure your family. Now, Lady Tsunade, is there anything I can do for the other injured? Tsunade grunted and led Shuna into the impromptu medical bay. After the two left, Naruto entered the room Fu was in and saw her crumpled form lying on the mattress. Her wounds had been dressed up, but there was nothing you can do for a wound to the heart that took out the chakra core. He sighed as he knelt at Fu's bedside. He noticed her diminished vital signs and came to the unpleasant conclusion that he couldn't help her. After a resigned sigh, he weaved through some hand seals and placed a tender hand over Fu's heart. He watched the kanji spread over the area as a thin blue glow encompassed her body and her whole being seemed to still. He asked for help from Kurama before he placed his hand over her seal on her exposed abdomen. Okay, Q, that stasis seal will buy us some time and slow the damage, but we are on a clock. We need to talk to Chomei, and I have a feeling based on the desperate feeling of Chomei's chakra that she isn't going to want to leave. Kurama was pacing in the mindscape. It was an uncomfortable sensation for him, and he didn't enjoy seeing this human die. He remembered that Fu was one of the first Biju captured and he remembered Chomei telling him about her life experience when the Biju were released and in hiding. He was racking his brain and trying to come up with a way to save the human girl, but if Tsunade couldn't do it then Kurama couldn't think of anything he could do. With a resigned sigh, Kurama answered his host. Look, Kit, Chomei was attached to this container. I will take you in there but try to let me do the talking. Kurama said in a somber tone. All right, I trust you. Naruto responded before he calmed his mind and placed his hands on Fu's seal. A familiar diving sensation washed over Naruto's senses and Naruto opened his eyes to see a replication of the great tree of Takigakure in the lake that resided near it. He saw the giant insect form of Chome hovering over a motionless body by the lakeside of the mindscape. The beetle was speaking frantically and jittering its pincers in an agitated fashion as its wings beat just fast enough for it to hover over the girl. The Biju was so distressed that it didn't notice its guests. "Chome, sister, we need to talk," Kurama said in a soft tone to garner Chome's attention. Chome spun around mid-air and took up a defensive position over Fu. "Kurama, what have you done to my container? Why is this boy here with you?" Kurama sat on his haunches in a non-aggressive pose as his tails waved in a forced calm behind him. "Sister, we have put a stasis seal over your container's wound so that we would have time to talk and come to a resolution. We have brought her to the best medic in the elemental nations and spit it out, Kurama. Will Fu recover?" Chome shouted agitatedly. Kurama hung his head and spoke softly, "No, sister, the damage to her heart was too severe." Chome buzzed about in a distressed fashion and the feelings overwhelmed Naruto. He focused on linking with his body and accessing the Senjutsu chakra. He entered Sage mode within the mindscape and focused on spreading the calmed nature energy through the seal and into Chome. Chome's agitation and anger became subdued, and it sounded like the giant insect was mourning the news, but the calming presence of Naruto was helping her think rationally. "Chome, I am sorry I didn't arrive fast enough to save Fu. I wasn't called to Taki until her fight was over and there was so much going on. I am Naruto Senju Uzumaki, and I want to help you." Naruto stepped forward slowly with his hands up and open in front of his chest. Chome turned toward Kurama. "How does your jailer know my name? Why does he feel like the one that first enslaved us?" Kurama watched Naruto do his thing and he decided to assist his container by answering the questions. "Naruto has the Mokudan ability, and he is a descendant of that man. He knows your name from a variety of sources, but the main reason is because he saved you and earned your trust in a previous life." Naruto stopped his approach and turned toward Kurama. "Way to go, Q, just pop the time travel bubble right away." Naruto's tone was playful and sarcastic, which was a startling and abrupt change from his calm demeanor a second earlier. Chome's eyes locked onto Naruto and Kurama in a state of stunned disbelief. This night was too overwhelming for Chome, and it was starting to become too much to bear. "Don't play with me, brother." Chome spat. Kurama's eye narrowed and his gaze hardened upon Chome. "Look here, little sister, I have come to your domain to speak with you and help you on behalf of this human here. We do not deceive you, and if you disrespect me again, I will show you why I am the strongest of the Biju. Now, stop your incessant hovering and clicking and listen to my partner." This startled Chome, especially the overwhelming power of Kurama's aura that he just flexed in front of her. The words had the desired effect as Chome became more subdued and she landed in front of Fu. Naruto walked forward calmly toward Chome and extended a fist to the beetle. With hesitation, Chome extended a leg toward the tiny human and tapped his fist. A flood of memories hit Chome and they were all centered around this boy's interactions with her in another time and place. Chome saw how the boy had met Fu before and the two became fast friends, at least until she fell into the hands of the Akatsuki. Chome saw Naruto break Obito's control over her and the many conversations that Naruto had with her and the other Biju. She saw how Naruto did everything he could to protect the tailed beasts and shelter them from the greed of the humans. Then she saw the end. As Chome was reviewing the memories, she was suddenly hit with a wave of sadness and grief from the human boy. It became clear to Chome that the child was watching the memories with her, and it opened up old wounds for the child. Chome saw Naruto drop his fist before he approached Fu and combed some of her tousled hair before he erected a wooden bed for her to rest in. Chome was overwhelmed by the sense of grief and regret as the human child looked at her current container. Chome forcibly snapped her attention away from the human child and looked towards her brother. "How is this possible?" Kurama sighed as he lay his head on his paws. The Jubi was released upon the human world and ended that timeline. Kami sent us back to start the new cycle. We have done everything we can to prevent the tragic end, but my kid is only one man. Chome was forced to stomach that information and her attention reverted to Naruto once more. Amid the rampaging sensations of regret and grief, the human child offered a sense of peace and understanding with his chakra. Why have you come here, boy? Naruto tore his attention away from Fu's motionless form and looked up at Chome, because I want to save you the pain of dying and reforming. I want to offer you a temporary sanctuary in my seal. I did a similar thing with Kokuo, but I had to absorb his natural energy after he had died and while he was reforming. Chome clicked her massive pincers in agitation. So, you wish for my power. You wish to be my new jailer. Kurama slapped a tail on the lake and a tidal wave of water splashed into the distant lands of the mindscape. Chome, my kid wishes nothing of the sort. If you would rather die and reform, he will let you. I would advise otherwise. Kurama spoke in a growl. He really hated it when people improperly judged his partner. Naruto held up a calming hand to Kurama. I will tell you what I told Kokuo. I am good in the power department and there is a good chance that you will send my chakra out of whack and actually make me weaker for a time. What I am offering you is a choice, Chome. You can fly around after you reform waiting for humans to attack you and attempt to enslave you. That would be your choice if you remain in Fu. Chome started stamping her chitinous legs in disgust. Or you can come with me where I will let you choose your partner. I will construct the seal in a manner that will let you be released, or at least a part of you. Whoever you choose will work with you toward a true partnership, as the sage intended from the start. Chome's buzzing and stomping stopped, and you can't save Fu. Naruto's gaze fell and he shook his head. No, I am sorry I wasn't there sooner. Kurama decided to step in here. Sister, we have stabilized her in a manner that will give you a couple days to decide. Your container will remain unconscious. My kid is tired, and he needs to rest. Think about our offer and we will return tomorrow. As Naruto left Fu's room and re-entered the craziness of the impromptu medical bay, Naruto was flagged over by Kinji. The two walked out onto the porch away from the craziness. The emotional stress of the evening and the considerable chakra drain was starting to take its toll on Naruto. His eyes were dimmer, his face was fixed into a serious frown and his skin seemed paler. All of this was noticed by Kinji, and the daimyo was worried about the boy he considered family. Ruto, I know you have had a long night and I won't take much of your time. I have notified Itachi of what happened, and a medical team is being dispatched to Wave. He told me that he would handle Taki, but I didn't tell him about the girl. Kinji said softly. Naruto chuckled dryly. So, you figured that out, huh? Kinji nodded slowly. Yeah, bud, I did. What did you do in her room? I spoke with Chome and let her know that there was nothing more we could do for Fu. And what is your plan? Kinji prodded softly. Same thing I did with Kokuo. Uncle Kin, you should know I don't give a damn about the balance of power or any of that nonsense. I will free the Biju, or at the very least let them choose their own partners. Kinji nodded once more. Yes, I figured that. Well, the way I see it, you brought Fu to Tsunade because she is the best doctor in the elemental nations. We will need to return Fu's body to Takigakure, but they don't need to know what happened with Chome. Naruto growled lowly. They will not give her the respectful burial she deserves. That town never loved nor appreciated her. Can you push for the rights to bury her in a place of Chome's choosing? Kinji sighed. I will see what I can do, kiddo. Kinji pulled Naruto into a warm hug. You have done so much good for the world, Naruto. I know this hurts, I know this is a setback, but don't let it sway your path. Naruto wrapped his arms around Kinji and returned the hug. Thanks Uncle Kin. I won't, I am just tired and stressed. Then trust me and your mama to handle everything else for the night. Go get some rest away from all of this craziness. Kinji said with finality. As Naruto left the compound and went to rest in one of the other homes that wasn't destroyed, the Uzumaki clan head's house remained in a state of chaos, stress and worry for the night. Tsunade, Shizune, Hinata, Haku and Ino worked through the night with the minimal supplies they had to stabilize Kakashi, Shino, Kiba and Shikamaru. Luckily for them, their injuries weren't fatal, and Tsunade and her apprentices were able to see them through the long night. 3 days later, Itachi and Team Rohan were led into Uzushiogakure by Naruto. The communication scrolls made it easy for Naruto to know when to disable the Whirlpool defenses and the Konoha group made it onto the island. The Konoha group brought a whole medical suite worth of supplies for the injured patients and Tsunade finally had what she needed to patch Asuma up. Naruto unsealed Asuma from his third medical stasis scroll and laid him out on the medical bed that the Konoha team brought. Tsunade had already used her jutsu, so set up a sterile field in the room, and Shinzun and Hinata were ready to assist Tsunade in the surgery. Tsunade visibly winced when she saw the state Asuma was in, and Naruto left the surgical room to let Tsunade work her magic. Outside of the surgical room, Itachi and Kinji were waiting for Naruto. The trio walked to an empty room and erected a privacy barrier. There was an awkward silence, nobody knowing exactly where to start, and it was then that Naruto spoke up. "Itachi, before we have this conversation, I need to know if you trust me." Itachi cocked an eyebrow and observed how serious Naruto was. He nodded his head slightly. "You know I trust you, Naruto." "What is it?" Naruto looked to Kinji before nodding to himself. "Well, Lord Hokage, I need you to sign an Uzumaki blood contract not to reveal any information we discuss here with the council or Konoha or anybody not approved by me or Lord Kinji." Itachi once again looked to Kinji and saw that the daimyo's face matched the deadly serious attitude of Naruto. With a resigned sigh, Itachi replied, "Very well." Kinji spoke up, "Itachi, this is serious. Far more serious than any village or nation. If this information gets out, it could and would ignite the Fourth Great Shinobi War." Itachi hesitated for a minute and then threw his hands up in exasperation. "Holy Kami, Naruto. Is there anything you do that isn't life-changing or world-shattering?" Naruto laughed heartily at that. "Itachi, I am here to change the world. I am here to lead the shinobi world into a new and better cycle." "So, blood contract." Itachi nodded once more. "I am not the Sandaime. I will choose to trust you. Before we get to that, I need to tell you something." Itachi seemed disappointed and apprehensive now. They were small tells, but Naruto knew Itachi well. "I am listening, sensei." Itachi sighed. "A month ago, shortly after the incident in Wave, Kuretsuchi was taken from the political prison that we had her in. There were no deaths, no broken locks, no evidence, no nothing except a ping from the barrier core. By the time the Anbu responded, Kuretsuchi was gone." "Fuck," Naruto said as he attempted to stop himself from punching the wall. Kinji noticed something. "You know who did it?" Naruto nodded. "It is the shadow of the Akatsuki. It is the Uchiha that put the fourth Mizukage under his control and caused the bloodline purges. And it is the Uchiha that controlled Kurama and made him attack Konoha. He has a spacetime ability that lets him warp in and out of places. That is what my father told me about when I was younger, and I have protected all of my homes with seals resistant to his spacetime ability." "Shit," Kinji whispered under his breath. "That's not good," whispered Itachi under his breath. "I will need you to install those seals all over Konoha, at least in all of the important places. The Anbu aren't going to like that," Naruto said with a chuckle. At Itachi's cocked eyebrow, he explained, "I can key my chakra signature as an exception to the barrier. I cannot do that for everyone else. That means, in those zones, they will not be able to use shunshin or other techniques that manipulate space." Itachi sighed. "They will have to deal with it." Moving on, "Itachi, how are the reforms going?" Kinji asked. Itachi rubbed his eyes. "Your wife has helped calm the civilian population. The shinobi clans have spread the Senju's contribution to Konoha and converted most of the populace. The civilian council is disbanded, and we lost a few merchants because of that." "What of Homura, Kaharu and the old monkey?" Naruto asked pointedly. "With the help of Kinji, I revoked their rights to be in the council. They are truly forced into retirement now. I am working with the new Udatain and Mitokoto clan heads to ensure that they understand their current situation. They are suffering from severe ostracization of the main shinobi clans." Naruto nodded, pleased to hear some good news. Kinji spoke up. "You have done good, Itachi. By the end of the training trip things should be settled enough for the Senjus to settle down for a bit." Itachi offered a sincere smile. "That was the point of all of this. Now, can we get back to the contract and the information you are so protective of?" Naruto wrote up the contract and all three parties signed it. That was when Itachi found out about what Naruto did with Kokuo and what he planned to do with Chome. Part of the contract was Itachi swearing to never release this information or attempt to use the Biju as an asset of Konoha. In short, Kokuo and Chome didn't belong to Konoha, even if Itachi could give missions to their Jinchuuriki. The biggest stipulation was that Itachi could not and would not inform anyone on the Konoha Council of the Biju's status. Naruto informed Itachi on how this would have dire consequences with the Akatsuki and Naruto's plans for the organization and the Biju. In return, Naruto swore to never use the Biju to dominate, terrorize or conquer any part of the elemental nations. He was also forced to sign saying that he would return to Konoha until at least his 21st birthday. All Naruto wanted to do was protect the beings he had grown to consider family by proxy to Kurama. Elsewhere on the island, Tayuya and Yami were walking through the ruins of Uzu. They had spoken multiple times over the past couple days and Yami felt strangely drawn to the full-mouthed beauty. Of the alters, Yami had the strongest link to negative emotions, and the mixing of Tayuya's beauty and eccentricity with her darker side truly intrigued Yami to no end. For Tayuya, she felt like Yami understood her and she wanted to understand more about him. It was clear to her that the broody cocksucker had mellowed out a bit and she wanted to find out about that. This shit is fucking creepy, Tayuya said as she stepped over some rubble in the center of the ruins. It is like walking in a flippin' graveyard and I am just waiting for some cunty ghost to jump up and scare my ass. Yami cast an amused smile at the girl. This is our home, and a great injustice was done here. Believe it or not, the negative energy has subsided quite a bit since the first time Naruto came here. Tayuya cocked an eyebrow at Yami. Care to explain that a little more, emo fucker? Yami scowled. I get your foul mouth, but that nickname sucked. Tayuya threw her hands up in mock apology, so Yami continued. When Naruto first arrived, nobody was buried. The invaders didn't take their dead or anything, so there were tens of thousands of bodies scattered on the island. No shit, Tayuya said surprised. No shit. The Uzumaki forces numbered just over 5,000 and they fought off nearly 75,000 invaders. If it weren't for the 4 Jinchuuriki of Iwa, Kumo and Kiri, then the Uzumaki would have likely succeeded in defending their home. In the end, less than 5,000 of the invading forces left the island. Yami spoke reverently about the feats of his ancestors. He resonated deeply with his home country and all of the lingering emotions in the air. Tayuya whistled appreciatively. Sounds like the Uzumaki were some seriously badass motherfuckers. Yami chuckled. Yes, they were. Now, all we want to do is rebuild our home country and honor our ancestors. Naruto is the rightful daimyo of these lands and that is why we are here. Yeah, your brother. You call him a brother, right? Yami nodded while moving through the ruins. Yeah, well that guy is a badass just like these Uzumakis. We were fighting against that immortal cunt-ass worshipper of Jashin and we couldn't do anything. That cocksucker seriously killed over 100 fucktoys in Taki, and he would have killed us too if it weren't for Naruto. I guess that is the second time he saved me. She finished in a whisper. Yami smiled again. Yeah, that is what he does. And you used to be synced with him, right? Yeah. Are you going to sync with him again? No. Why not? Tayuya asked, curious about this guy. Because neither of us want that. Over the past year and change, I have changed, he has changed, and we all have changed. We cannot be separated from one another, but it would also be equally as damaging to force us into one. Yami said pensively. That was some deep shit for an emo bastard. Tayuya ribbed him, breaking the serious mood. Yeah, well, I guess you could say I respect him. He is teaching me that there is a purpose in overcoming all the terrible fucking shit in this world. Not only is he teaching me, but he is out there showing me how to do it. Then I get the chance to get to know people like you, the people he saved and changed. Yami said wistfully. And, Tayuya pressed. And it gives me a purpose to keep on living. It gives me hope that I can change and find my purpose. Yami answered sincerely. Look, emo boy, I like you the way you are. The world doesn't need another fucking super boy scout. Tayuya said earnestly. Yami paused mid-step. You mean that? You like me? Tayuya nodded, not willing to say it out loud again. Can I kiss you? Tayuya jumped back and exclaimed, what the fuck you fucking emo cunt? Yami held up his hand defensively. I am sorry for asking. Tayuya's blush calmed, and she decided to ask, why did you ask me that? Yami looked down at the ground and an uncertain look fixed itself on his face. In order to help me, the others have shared memories with me. I watched as they fell in love, I watched them kiss and grow closer. It filled me with a temporary happiness, and I wanted to feel that more than anything. However, it felt like watching a movie. Like the feelings weren't my own. Yuya stepped forward, grabbed Yami's head on both sides and stepped up on her tippy toes to place a passionate kiss on his lips. It was impulsive, it was brash, it was rushed, and it was sloppy, but it was Yami's first kiss. Yuya released Yami's head and stepped back a bit. She laughed uproariously at the blush on Yami's face and the fixed, stunned look he was wearing. It is just a kiss, emo boy. Yuya forced herself to play down her own feelings. This guy was crazy, creepy and emotional. Just as fucked up and broken as she was, which is probably why she did it. Thank you, Yami said as he broke out of his stunned state and a smile fixed itself upon his face. Sure thing, fucker. Keep playing your cards right and there may be more where that came from. Yuya answered softly. Thank you for watching, please remember to like and subscribe and I'll catch you in the next part.